With full commentary of every Warwickshire cricket game this summer, exclusively online, bbc.co.uk/WM.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. Let's get the latest news now with Nicole Pullman.
A police officer has been injured in a crash on the Aston Expressway in Birmingham. The officer had been responding to reports of men running on the carriageway, and the police car collided with another vehicle heading out of the city towards Spaghetti Junction. The driver of the other vehicle was not badly hurt. A man was arrested at the scene, and the Aston Expressway has now reopened after being closed in both directions for several hours. 31 people have died in a fire at a trade union building in Odessa after clashes between pro-Russian militants and government supporters. At an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, Russia condemned what it termed the criminal adventures of the Ukrainian government, but the US ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power, defended Kiev's actions.
It has been 63 days since Russia began its campaign to annex Crimea. And for 63 days, day after day, the Ukrainian government has chosen peace. Yet in those same 63 days, Russia, day after day, has chosen to pursue more territory.
Birmingham City could end up in League One after this weekend. They need to beat Bolton and hope the other results go their way today in the Championship. Portsmouth have been relegated 3 times and gone through administration because of mismanagement, and there are worries the same could happen to Blues. Jeff Mesher is a football finance expert. He says the club needs to be financially savvy.
To some extent, cut their cloth to suit where they now find themselves. The elements of income that are going to be severe or potentially severely affected, such as TV money, sponsorship, they need to make sure that their player wages are not hugely outstripping the income that they're getting.
BBC WM has been with fans at St Andrews as they set off for Bolton this morning.
I think we're going to draw 1-1 and Leicester are going to win and we'll stay up on goal difference, hopefully. It's the only one I can think of. I can't think of any other scenario. It's got to be that or else that's it, we're down.
If our form continues like we've been playing away, then hopefully we will win. What I wanted to say, though, is just all the messages I've seen from fans and on Facebook is just win, lose or draw. We'll just keep supporting them.
A fundraising event in Pelsall planned in memory of murdered soldier Lee Rigby has been cancelled because of council regulations. Walsall Council says paperwork needed so the event can go ahead wasn't submitted in time. A march and a fun fair had been planned. Phil Evans was behind the idea. He says it wasn't their fault the paperwork got missed.
The gentleman in question, he was away on holiday for that 2 weeks. So, you know, I mean, is there only one bloke who can turn around and say yes or no?
The weather fine and dry with some sunshine, winds staying light throughout today and a top temperature of 15 Celsius, 59 Fahrenheit. Tonight a dry, mild and frost-free night with a minimum temperature of 5 Celsius, 41 Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice. The Voice. The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
You should take in other religions and treat them as you would want to be treated yourself.
We are even more intelligent. They treated me with the utmost respect.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, it's bank holiday. It's nice weather out there. Oh, it's lovely weather out there. We'll have some of that. Today's show, it's a mixed bag today. Producer Joe and I were struggling, not because we're incompetent and not because I think she was severely hungover from last night. No, we were struggling to kind of come up with a thrust for the show. So it's going to be a bit of a scattergun approach. If any of this stuff grabs your fancy, call in. And as always, the rule is, as always, if you've got anything you'd like to talk about, then you can call in and we'll consider it. Not saying we're desperate or anything, but I'll give you the phone number in a bit. So what we've got coming up later on in the show is, well, there's a haunted house going up for sale in America. It's been on the market for ages, and it's a ridiculously cheap price because no one wants to buy it because there are ghosts there. Come on, guys. Come on, if you believe in ghosts, you are a muppet. It's a nice idea, but we know they don't exist, don't we? Don't we? 03453 009956. Apologies are in the papers this week, or lack of apologies. Jeremy Clarkson has delivered, well, it sounds like a vaguely humiliating apology, but you kind of get the idea that at the end of recording it, he walked off flicking the V's to the cameraman. And Max Clifford is in the paper for not saying sorry. So can saying sorry really make a difference? And when have you done it? When have you had sorry said to you? And did you then forgive that person? 03453 009956. But first of all, knife crime is a big story this week. How do we stop people carrying knives? And are there really more kids carrying knives than there were, say, 20, 30 years ago? Keen to get your stories on this. 03453 009956. You can send me texts if you want. 81333. Start your text WM. Or you could send me an email. Yes. Iain.lee, IAIN.LEE at bbc.co.uk.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453
9956.
BBC WM 95.6.
Also, did we just at the end of Molly's show, an excellent show by the way, did we really hear a man of the cloth doing a prayer for a football team? That actually happened? Did it? I'm not a religious man. Okay, I do occasionally like to go to church. If I'm a bit bored and I'm in a new town, or in an old town, or in a town of any age, that's irrelevant, in fact. But if I'm a bit bored, I've got an hour to spend or something, I quite often go and sit in the church. It's nice. Sit in the church, peaceful. Look at the beautiful church. Occasionally I'll go to a church service, just because I like the tradition of it. I don't get the God thing, but I like the tradition of it. We'll be talking about God things later on. But often in the back of the church service, it will have a list of people that they're praying for. And they'll be praying for, for disabled people. It's nice. A bit patronising, but it's nice. They'll be praying for people who are serving in the armed forces. Oh, OK, that's fine if that's what you want to do. And then they'll be praying for Steve, who's got an important meeting on Thursday. Or the people from Forge Drive who are entering the flower competition. And now we're getting a prayer for a football team. I know a lot of you find football incredibly important. I know this station puts a lot of weight and importance on football. I don't get football. I don't get it. And trust me, guys, I've tried to get the football. I don't get it. And I know lots of you are panicking, crossing your fingers, wearing your lucky pants, doing your rituals today so that your team does all right. I need you to phone up and sell football to me, please. 03453 009956. Try and sell it to me. So, as I said, it's a mixed bag today. If you just want to phone up and have a chat, 03453 009956, I'm sure we'll find room for you somewhere. Often these shows sometimes these shows, when it's a mixed bag, can be a disaster. Often they're the best. So let's see what happened. An important story this week, knives. How do we stop people carrying knives? Can we ever stop them? A minute's silence is being held at a conference in Birmingham later on in memory of Anne Maguire. Now, that was the teacher, of course, who was stabbed to death earlier this week. And meanwhile, 2 girls have been arrested in connection with an alleged copycat incident. And letters leaked to the press suggest that the Liberal Democrats are blocking Conservative efforts to toughen up on knife crime. But the Lib Dems say mandatory sentences would actually increase crime. How do we cut down on knife crime? Can we cut down on knife crime? Hasn't it always been this way? 03453 009956 is the phone number. Let's get a word now with President of the National Association of Head Teachers, Bernadette Hunter. Good morning to you, Bernadette.
Good morning.
There is a conference, isn't there, happening today, I think, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. It's the NAHT annual conference in Birmingham.
And you're going to be holding a minute's silence in memory of Anne Maguire?
Yes, that's correct. At the start of the opening ceremony at 10:30 this morning, all of the assembled head teachers will be standing and paying tribute and remembering a very dedicated and caring teacher.
I bet you thought you'd never be doing that at a conference, having a moment's silence to remember a teacher murdered, killed in a classroom.
Yes, you're right, Iain. We would never have thought that we'd be doing this. However, we do also know that tragic as this incident was, it's very, very rare. In fact, as we know, it is the first occasion in this country. And we also know that the vast majority of schools are very, very safe places for both pupils and for staff.
How did your members and the teaching profession as a whole... No, let me change that. How did you react, Bernadette, when you heard the story of Mrs. Maguire?
I felt sick. I felt very sad. I was extremely shocked. And I think that's the reaction that everyone's had, but particularly people who work in education and work in schools. It has been a terrible thing, and it has really rocked the sort of education world. But as I say, we don't want to turn our schools into fortresses. Schools are safe places, and until the investigation's been done on the incidents surrounding this particular case, I don't think we should have any knee-jerk reactions or try to make any changes too quickly.
Well, the one of the knee-jerk reactions that's being mooted is to have scanners going into school, which I believe they have in a significant number of schools in the United States. We don't want to see that here, do we?
The vast majority of school leaders do not want to see that, no. And as I understand it, Anne Maguire herself would not have wanted to see it either. I think far better is to concentrate on educating young people about knife crime and the dangers of knife crime, and making sure that they're aware that carrying a knife is potentially a life-threatening thing to do. And so I think there's a role for schools to play in making sure that we educate young people.
Don't young people know that, though? Young people know that knives can kill people or seriously injure people. How do we get that message across? Because I would imagine, Bernadette, the kind of young people, and let's focus on them for a moment, the kind of young people that are carrying knives don't really have a lot of respect for the teachers and what they're being taught at school anyway.
I think all we can do is bring people in who've been involved in it, who know the consequences, who can talk to these young people about the impacts and effect of it. And although you say a lot of the young people do know, I'm not sure that is necessarily the case, particularly with some of the younger children who I think are very influenced by their peers and influenced by things that they see in the media. So I think it is really important that we don't give up on making sure that we are educating children about it.
Well, tougher sentencing is again in the news this week. Do you think... Again, I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm trying to remember when I was 14, 15. At that age, I remember feeling invincible and immortal. And if there are tougher prison sentences... young people don't really understand what that means. They can't comprehend the concept of going into a correctional institution, can they?
No, I think I would tend to agree with that. I mean, I'm not sure I'm qualified to give an opinion on tougher sentencing for young people, but I agree that most young people can't see that. So we need to help them to understand the impact, the human impact it has on their friends and on their family and on themselves of carrying knives. And I think that's where we need to start. And
you're right to point out that, and I don't want to be, we're not one of those shows that goes around saying, hey, all kids are murderers, everyone's carrying a knife at all. I don't like jumping on that bandwagon. This is so far a one-off incident with this other incident that we're hearing about in Wales. It's a rarity that it happens. But do you think more children, more young people are carrying knives into school? Because if I'm honest, I remember 25 years ago, a couple of my mates having knives in school. I used to take nunchuckers into school, martial arts weapon. I know it's insane saying it out loud, but have things really changed that much, or are we just more aware of it?
I suspect we're just more aware of it. I think that's the case. And, schools do have systems and strategies in place to make sure that the schools are safe places, that pupils are aware that they shouldn't bring those things in, and that checks are made. I'm not sure we need to go for airport security-style scanners at the end of the day, but obviously we need to start a debate about this now that this has happened, but let's have a reasoned debate and take our time to make the right decisions.
Bernadette, I appreciate your time, and I hope the conference goes smoothly this weekend. President of the National Association of Head Teachers, Bernadette Hunter. I had the overwhelming urge to call her Mrs. Hunter. I get like that even now when I talk to teachers. I kind of become that subservient 13-year-old, not the stroppy 15-year-old. How do we cut down on knife crime? How do we change it? And is it any worse? Like I said, when I was at school, a couple of kids brought knives into school. I used to take martial arts. I remember taking some ninja throwing stars into school. 03453 009956. This is BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Liz Saul.
Morning, Iain. Thank you. It's still looking a bit congested because of that closure earlier on of the Aston Expressway in both directions. All long since reopened, but northbound going out of the city is still a bit heavy going with the congestion back to St Chad's Queensway on the A38. Through Selly Oak, that bit of the A38 is looking a little busy towards the Priory Road turn and in the Edgbaston direction. Not too bad around Junction 3 of the M42 now. And in Droitwich, Victoria Square remains shut for emergency carriageway repairs at St Andrews Road, so that's likely to cause you a bit of disruption today. Your matchday travel sees Blues fans off to Bolton, the early kick-off at 12:15. It's a good 2-hour journey, so you better get a bit of a wriggle on. Up the M6 and onto the M62 is looking fine so far this morning. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 travel 08453 002288.
And there's the final whistle here.
4-1 to Swansea. The Blues ring out from the Villa fans. They're not happy. They're waving their arms.
The Villa supporters stand as one and say, we don't want you. We want Lambert out. That was the cry from the fans.
The voice of Birmingham in the Black Country.
BBC WM
95.6.
Yes. So, knife crime, how do we cut down on it? What do we do? I don't know what the answer is. And I'm trying to think, is it worse now? Is it? I don't know. I don't have the statistics in front of me. Is it worse now than 30 years ago, 25 years ago? When I was a kid at school, I remember a couple of my mates brought in knives to school. I remember I was really into martial arts and Bruce Lee films, OK? I remember going to my mate Graham's house and buying a butterfly knife off of him and carrying it home. I remember being terrified carrying it home. I thought I was going to get busted. But butterfly knife, for those of you who don't know, it's a really sharp martial arts knife. I used to take nunchuckers into school and show my mates my nunchuckers. They're these two thick wooden sticks joined together by a chain. You whack someone with them, you're going to do them a bit of damage. In fact, remembering back, I remember being involved in a situation outside of school late at night where a friend of mine got his chest slashed. Not badly, but there was blood was drawn. And this would have been in 1989. So are things worse? Are things different? You go back to the 50s and 60s, the mods and the rockers, they all had knives. Quite often, the rockers, or the mods, I get confused as to which is which. Anyway, they would sew razor blades behind the lapels of their jackets. So if someone grabbed their lapel to say, "Come here, sunshine," they'd slice their fingers. So are things really any different? Are they worse? And how do we sort it out? How do we stop it once and for all? Or do we just have to accept it's a part of culture? Some people will always carry knives. 03453 009956. I don't know the answer to this one. I don't quite know how we deal with this one. Tougher prison sentences? Well, I guess it's something. One of the complaints that the Lib Dems are being attacked for is them saying, well, hang on, yeah, how would we afford it? And it sounds a bit cold and it sounds a bit callous, but it's actually quite a good point. How would we afford it? Prisons are crowded, overcrowded as it is. Suddenly you start putting a few hundred youngsters away as well. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the answer is, and hopefully by 12 o'clock we'll... we probably still won't know the answer, but we'll be a little bit closer to knowing it. 03453 009956. One of the other things we're talking about this morning is saying sorry. Clarkson has said sorry reluctantly this morning for trying not to use the N-word. Max Clifford hasn't said sorry for carrying out some hideous sexual assaults. Is sorry a strong enough word? Does it change things? Derek's in Droitwich. Morning, Derek.
Good morning.
Derek, what do you reckon about the word sorry?
Well, you've missed the person out who hasn't been advertised, basically.
Go on.
Vince Cable, for one.
Okay.
For selling off the post office to a lot of his mates as regards the money that they made. I mean, Lazard International Investments, that banking chairman, and Mandelson is the multi-millionaire of that one. You see how that all grouped together?
Yeah.
And who else was there? They bought 20 million shares, and within a week they'd sold them on.
Oh, yeah, they were...
And they'd got only 3 million.
Vince Cable sold them to them and said, now, listen, guys, you're not going to sell these straight away, are you? Oh, no, sir, Mr. Cable, sir, no, sir. And then...
They're just a bunch of crooks. I can't believe what they've done.
Now, this is an interesting thing, because I've heard Vince Cable interviewed about this. He thinks he's done nothing wrong.
Oh.
And is that part of the problem? If people Max Clifford thinks he's done nothing wrong, so they don't feel they have to, not in any way saying that what Cable and Clifford have done are in any way similar, but they don't feel they've done anything wrong, so they don't feel the need to say. If Cable came out and said, sorry, Derek, would that be enough for you? I suspect not.
No, he should resign, because the post office is a workers' and a public institution that has been built up by the public, and it's there. And these things like this, are a disgrace. We're losing everything on this May Day. It's a May Day holiday. I think things like this have got to be brought up. And can I also mention there's a May Day march in London honouring Tony Benn and Bob Crow. I wish them the best of luck as regards that.
Will you be getting your maypole out, Derek, and letting people dance around it?
I was born on May Day.
Okay.
So basically, along with my politics, I was born on the right day.
Derek, thank you very much indeed. There we go. 03453 009956. We can talk about some of the bigger people who have or have not said sorry. Who do you think needs to say sorry in the public eye? But I'm keen to get your personal stories on this as well, where you hear amazing things, don't you? There was a thing recently, a case recently, I say recently, in the last year, and I can't think of the specifics, but someone had been murdered, a young man had been murdered, and the mother said, I forgive the person that murdered my son. Wow. I forgive the person that murdered my son. And forgiving people is a big deal, isn't it? Because it means you're not carrying that resentment, that weight around. Forgiveness, saying sorry. 03453 009956 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. We're talking as well about knife crime this morning. How do we stop people carrying knives? Knives are in the papers again after, of course, the murder of Anne Maguire, the teacher who was stabbed to death in the classroom earlier this week. Well, I'm joined now by Councillor Elizabeth Walker, former Children's Services Chief in Dudley. He's a governor at various primary schools in Dudley and a member of the Corporation of Dudley College. Is it Elizabeth or Liz? Which do you prefer?
It's Liz, really.
Liz. Then we'll go Liz. So you are responsible. You are a governor at various schools.
Yes.
How did you react when you heard the story this week?
When I heard the story this week, I was just so saddened and just felt. And you've just been talking about forgiveness. In all this, you've got to be able to say, well, why do young people really feel that they have to kill or hurt someone who's obviously tried to protect them, tried to be their friend, as this lady had, but he had got a grudge. And it was the same with the knife crime that we sadly had in Starbridge a few years ago, where fortunately, a lad intervened, Stephen Hudson intervened, and managed to stop the lad trying to murder his girlfriend. And sadly, the school in London where Philip Lawrence. And that is sad today because he's just been let out on parole. What that must be doing to the family, I just don't know. So back to your question, in the wider realm, since those events of 20 years ago in London, more young people, for whatever reason, whether it be peer pressure, peer culture, brotherivity, virtuality on screen, and I think that has a lot to do with it, are carrying offensive weapons. And offensive weapons, in the moment, can kill, maim, disfigure, and, it's happening all the time, and increasingly happening.
Let's look at schools specifically for the moment. How do we stop knives being taken into schools?
Well, there is only one way, really. That's personal search and encouraging others to whistleblow. But that's even more difficult. So I really do now think that it has come where there have been incidents where children have been excluded from schools because they've been found to have an offensive weapon, that schools must seriously think of making young people, and in fact, and others, go through a simple airport scanner, which would give an indication. But are we coming to the American style where we've got to have security guards? Heaven help us.
When scanners were first mooted this week, having airport scanners at schools, my heart sank because.
Yeah.
Do we really want all of our kids passing through metal detectors? Because it means we don't trust any of them.
Well, that's the sad part, isn't it? And I ultimately think we have 99% of our young people are amazing. They are committed to serving their fellow pupils. They're committed to serving their community. They behave sometimes a bit way over the top. But underneath, they are decent, ordinary folk. And yes, we are. But then, when we do get an incident like this, it's happened in Leeds, where this young man obviously had the intention of using his weapon. It's like most things, isn't it? We have to make the majority suffer for the minority. I don't know enough about airport scanners, but if they are the simplistic ones that we just put at an entrance, and if it bleeps, then there must be somebody around to say, well, why is it bleeping? And that will be, in the majority of cases, because children are carrying keys. But I really do think that we've really got to have some form of being able to ensure the safety of the majority.
Liz, stay there. 03453 009956. I want to bring in my next guest, Patrick Regan, founder of the urban youth charity XLP. Patrick, you talk directly to young people, school children, about not taking weapons into school. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been doing that for the last 18 years.
How did you get into that, Patrick?
Well, actually, my charity was founded 18 years ago. I was a youth worker in a local church, and the school down the road had a stabbing in the school playground. And so they phoned the church up and said, can you help us get the moral fibre of our kids up? And I think the vicar realised the school was quite rough, so didn't really fancy it. So sent me as the local youth worker to see what I could do. And I really went in there and said, I want to try and work with long-term solutions that really tackle the drivers to why these things happen in the first place, and really try and understand some of the issues around inner city young people. I mean, that school has actually now gone, and it isn't just because of us, there's loads of interventions, has gone to one of the best improving schools in the country.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second, Patrick? Because I'm imagining that the young people that are carrying and may potentially use knives, if they're told they're going to have a talk today by a youth worker from a Christian background, with the greatest of respect, I imagine a lot of those kids will be flicking you the V's at the back of the class and completely ignoring what you're saying.
Yeah, well, obviously that isn't our experience, because XLP's grown into work with 1,800 young people every week. From our experience, it isn't just about going in and doing a lesson. It's about building relationship. And so one of the things that we've done with schools is schools can work out, actually, who are the kids who are on the verge of getting excluded. And you know all the statistics, that if you get excluded, you've got a far greater chance of being involved in crime or gangs or unemployed. So we say, well, let's identify those kids, and then let's provide a mentor for them for 12 months, 2 hours a week, helping them, helping their family, doing that support. And after 12 months, we're seeing about 70% of those kids staying in education. We had this one girl recently, 15. She had no mum and dad, boundary issues with older men at the age of 15, living with an auntie. And her mentor took her to the gym each week because I realised that actually her self-esteem, she was an angry young girl. We have a phone call a year ago saying, that girl, we're sort of all like, oh no, she's been excluded, been kicked out. And we're going to nominate her for head girl.
Wowzers.
And she actually got deputy head girl. So I guess what I've been trying to say all week is I understand with some tragedy, and you have to realise that some of my close friends, one of my very close friends, has lost their child to knife crime. So I've got a lot of experience in this. But we've got to take the long-term view. And that's what I keep saying.
Patrick, Liz was suggesting, and it's been suggested elsewhere, we get airport-style scanners outside schools.
Yeah, again, I understand why people say that, but obviously they do not solve the issue, at all to why a young person will carry a knife in the first place. And actually, if you think about it and all the stuff that's come out this week, we're told that 1,000 pupils have been carrying weapons in the last 3 years. That's 1,000 pupils. We have 8.2 million pupils in our schools. And actually, Anne Maguire herself was strongly opposed to metal detectors. In the US, they've actually put these measures in, and violence has increased. It's had the opposite effect. From my experience of 20 years of doing youth work, kids break CDs, they use sharp edges, they throw knives over the fence. So what I'm saying is, though I have sympathy with that, we've got to deal with a wider issue. I had a mum say to one of their kids, that kid who's picking at you at school, go and stab him in the arm outside school.
Gosh.
And that's coming from the parent. So what I'm saying is we've got to look seriously and honestly at the context of where these young people are growing up. We've got to look at these issues and we've got to change the environment. And I think we have to widen up the debate, not just about knives in schools, but knives in our community. Because you know what? If you just you make these a fortress, I know those knives will be hidden in that flower bed outside that school, and when those kids walk home, it's going to be absolutely frightening for them.
Liz, Patrick says the scanners won't work.
I can understand his point of view, and I agree with so much that he's just said. It is about working with. For instance, at Dudley, we do have a big system of mentors trying to help young people who are at risk and have personal and emotional details. And yes, we find it's very successful. Yeah, no, I don't think it will, but it will allay a lot of fear amongst parents. I mean, yesterday in Dudley we had an incident where a rumour started and parents kept their children out of school.
No, is it? Did I hear this correctly? Is this the story where a couple of children had spotted a child with a knife?
Yeah,
and the school, they claimed they'd seen a child with a knife, and the school and the police said, "Oh, well, there's not enough evidence. We can't do anything."
Yeah, yes, that's true. And so parents took it into their own hands. Well, you know, this is absolutely preposterous and just makes the whole situation such a lot worse.
Patrick, but another thing, someone's called in, and I'll bring Gary in a second. Yeah. Patrick, having scanners, is this not a natural evolution? Because I remember when I went to school, there wasn't even a lock on the school gate, and then they introduced locks on school gates, then they introduced cameras and buzzers on school gates, which when they first came in, I thought, well, that's a little bit extreme. Patrick, is scanners just not a progression from that?
I don't think so. I think it makes places... I don't think it makes people safe. I think it makes them policed. And I think the head of Association of Teachers said exactly that this week. And I'm not, and I have great sympathy. And I'm not an enforcement expert. I'm an intervention person. Mm-hmm. So, I look at what works. And for me, I'm just scared that it will make things worse in the community. And that's why I think we need to widen up the debate. Why do kids carry knives in the first place? Why would a kid... I dealt with a kid wearing a bulletproof vest to school.
Sorry? What?
And he was so scared he was going to get stabbed. And then I could see what happened with him is I got him a mentor. He started doing really well. The XLP guys were amazing. Yeah. But then 3 months later, he gets stabbed outside the school at 3:30 in the afternoon and narrowly escapes with his life. So we've got to look long term. We've got to think. The other thing is we talk about knife awareness stuff. It's not part of the national curriculum. Brooke Costello, whose brother died, she campaigned to the Home Office to get it. And so there's loads of things that we can do.
Patrick,
but I'm just not convinced.
Can I just say, the incident you mentioned of the young lad who's wearing the bulletproof vest, I'm guessing you guys encouraged him to take that vest off?
Well, we have to deal with what was going on there, and he was in a gang in, this was particularly a London incident, though we work nationally as well, but he was in a gang in Peckham, he was in a gang in Brixton.
But if he was wearing that vest because he was afraid he was going to get stabbed, and then he took that vest off and got stabbed...
No, he got stabbed in the neck.
Oh, he got stabbed in the neck, but then young people are doing what they feel they need to do to protect themselves.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point, isn't it? It's breaking that culture of fear, and... the only thing I've seen work over 20 years of doing this, and I guess it's the same for all of us. We can all look back and go, you know what, there was this one person that came into my life who stuck with me, who understood my issues. We're not recruiting mentors from outside the community, we're recruiting them from inside the community. Some kids reach the age of 15, they've had nothing positive ever said about them. And when I went back 18 years ago, this school realised they couldn't do it on their own. They needed the help of the community. And I guess I want to come out of this complete tragedy is, believe me, government can't solve this, police can't solve this, your listeners And people like me in our community, we need to help. We need to volunteer our time, and we need to get involved.
Patrick, Liz, Patrick, stay there. Gary wants to join us. Gary's in Solihull. Morning, Gary.
Morning, okay.
Yeah, what would you like to say, Gary?
Well, how long will it be before everybody hears or knows about this lad's mental history, you know? I mean, we're not going to know now, but...
No, we're not. And listen,
his background...
Gary, listen, I think charges have been made, so I don't want to talk specifically about that incident.
No, but it's an isolated thing. They're saying about something needs to be done. The little girl who got stabbed in Birmingham on the bus, that was isolated. Are we going to have metal detectors on buses?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's the same thing. It was totally isolated. It was a one-off. So, I mean...
And he makes a good point, doesn't he, Liz? These are isolated incidences. Are we panicking too much at something that is actually a rarity?
But it isn't an isolated incident because, as Patrick has just said, there is this culture of carrying knives and stabbing out in the community. And we don't hear about the stabbings that don't kill. We only hear about the stabbings that do take a life, really.
OK, listen, we're going to end it there because I want to squeeze in some more people. Thank you very much, Councillor Elizabeth Walker from Dudley and Patrick Regan, founder of urban youth charity XLP. Over to you. 03453. Hang on, why did I say that wrong? It's an 03453 009956. Why did I say 0? I never say 0 when I'm giving out phone numbers, even though the pedants amongst you constantly point out that O is a letter and is not a number. 03453 009956 is the phone number. How do we stop it? How do we stop it? Knife crime. Is there a way of stopping it? Do we just have to accept it's part of the culture? There are young people who feel they need to carry knives to protect themselves. Now, obviously, that's escalating, isn't it? That's making things worse. But what do you do? What do we do, excuse me, to stop people feeling like that? 03453 009956.
More goals, more games. It's a double match commentary today from midday, exclusively live on FM. It's Bolton versus Blues, followed at 3 by Villa versus Hull.
BBC WM 95.6.
And listen, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me, i.e. BBC WM 95.6, but you lot are obsessed with football. Obsessed with it. I don't get it. I don't get football. I don't understand it. If you can explain it to me, if you can sell it to me, please do. Load of blokes running around kicking a pigskin. I don't understand. I've been to a football match. I went to Luton versus Millwall. It was terrifying. I was so scared. I was so scared. There was so much tension in the ground and a little bit of racism as well. What a great thing for me to be sat in the middle of. Tension and racism. Yeah, I'll have some of that, please, guys. It was terrifying and it was boring. It was boring. I've never got the football thing. If you can phone up this morning and sell football to me, I know it's a big day for various teams in Birmingham and the Black Country. If you can sell it to me, then please do. 03453 009956. On the subject of knives, it's Ranjit in Albury. Morning, Ranjit.
Morning, Ian. You all right?
I'm all right. What have you got for us?
Okay. You know the knife crime, yeah?
Yeah, I know the knife crime.
I blame it mostly on the lawmakers because this doesn't affect the lawmakers' children. It doesn't affect the lawmakers, other than that when they're going to be answerable to the public and they'll make up a lame excuse of why it's happening.
Why doesn't it affect the lawmakers and their children?
Well, does David Cameron's son or his daughter go to a local primary school or a local secondary school? No, they don't.
But posh kids can carry knives.
Well, posh kids can carry knives, yeah. But the
his children could well be out when they're a little bit older. Well be out on a Friday or a Saturday evening in a bar or a club where a knife is pulled.
Have you got rose-tinted glasses on today? Right?
I've left my glasses at home, Ranjit, and I can see nothing.
Okay. No, the thing is, right, say a child who's 14, 15 goes to the police here and says, look, I've got a problem with somebody at school. The things that child and their parents have to go through to get any kind of restraining order, yeah, on another child or get it sorted, They have to go through loads of processes. And while this is going on, this child has potentially got a chance of being hurt by the perpetrator that he's reported. So nothing gets done until it's too late. That's what the problem is. And we need, definitely need a deterrent. Because you've got a hardcore of people, children, adults, who aren't afraid of the law because of the deterrence. That's the major problem. I know loads of people who aren't afraid of the law. They say, well, if I go to prison, I'll have 6 months out of what I normally do.
There is this. I've got this story up in front of me now. Producer Joe sent it to me. This story that I heard on Caroline's show yesterday. Parents take children out of Coseley School amid knife rumours.
Yeah.
Education chiefs have denied the claim made by some parents at Hurst Hill Primary School. The parents say their children told them a pupil had brought a knife in on Wednesday, which the school has denied. And so basically a load of parents took their kids out of school and stood outside the school. The police came and the police and the headmaster or the head teacher said, well, there's not a lot we can do, really. Get your kids back in school. Would you send your kids to a school round if one of them came home and said, hey, I saw Tony says he's got a knife?
But that exactly reflects what I've said. How many processes do parents, or teachers have to go through to get this person excluded or this person trained or whatever? That's the end result at that school. When people have complained to the police, people have complained to the teachers, they've had enough. So what they're doing, they're having a revolution and they're standing outside saying, right, we're not going to send our children to school. What about that school in Saltley where the child was, it was quite a complicated case. He was allowed back into the school. In the end, the head teacher resigned. Because I deal with a lot of children, right? I mean, we run a football club. We ran it free. We didn't charge kids. And the council wanted to charge us to use the park. So we was keeping children off the streets, yeah? But
the council are making it difficult for you.
They're making it so difficult for us. You know, all these youth workers and that, they've got a really good point. They're trying to do a hard job, right? It's an uphill task. And most of them have experienced these kind of...
Listen, the phrase youth worker, if I'm completely honest, Ranjit, it fills me with a bit of dread. Because the only young people that will listen to a youth worker, that will go to a youth club, that will do those kind of things, are normally the kids that are all right, are normally the kids that have been brought up well, are normally the kids that aren't going to get involved in knife crime. The little so-and-sos, the damaged kids, the abused kids, the ones that are carrying knives, that are getting into gangs, that are getting into drugs, generally the majority of those are going to laugh at a youth worker and stick their fingers up at a youth club, aren't they?
But that just goes back to what I told you. There's a hardcore of people who aren't afraid of the law, and that is what's gone wrong in this society. And those kind of people will not be close to the lawmakers, and they will not associate themselves with the lawmakers' children.
Ranjit, very quickly, I'm just going off on a slight tangent. It's a big day for football here in the West Midlands. I don't get it. You just told me you work with kids and teaching them football. You've got 30 seconds, Ranjit. Try and sell football to me. What am I missing?
It's an adrenaline rush, all right? When you go to watch a match, you watch people run around, exercise, put air into their lungs. What? And when you watch the satisfaction of the kids that we teach football to, and when they win and when they lose, the emotions that they come out with.
Ranjit, thank you. If one of the selling points of football is you watch people put air into their lungs, I might as well go and stand outside an office and watch people having a fag. They're putting air and smoke into they're putting two things into their lungs. Come on, guys, you've got to be able to sell football. I know you're very passionate about it. And I was unsure whether I should come out of the closet today and tell you, not only do I know nothing about football, you'll have guessed that already, I can't stand the sport. I know, I'm putting my career in danger here and at other stations. Oh, he doesn't like football. No, we won't use him. 03453 009956. There's got to be more to football than people putting air in their lungs. BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the travel now with Liz Saul. Liz.
Thank you very much, Iain. I'm very much in favour of football, I have to say.
Do you like seeing people put air into their lungs?
Well, I think that's a rather odd comment, actually. I mean, on a practical level, it actually inspires kids. And you've got some footballers who've become sort of heroes and icons, and actually
people like Wayne Rooney and John Terry, great heroes, great icons.
David Beckham and things. So,
people poncing around in their pants, covered in tattoos.
Well,
That's what my kids
really,
to be like.
But actually, I think he inspires a lot of kids, especially boys who might have otherwise run amok, to be rather enterprising.
Well, you get 5 points for using the phrase run amok. Let's have the travel now, please, Liz.
It's not looking too bad, actually. The M6 going north of the M42 at junction 4. There's reports of some debris in the carriageway. Police are on the way to the scene to try and clear it out of the way. Otherwise, little pockets of congestion in the centre of Birmingham through Selly Oak on the A38 towards Priory Road near the cricket ground. Round Droitwich, Victoria Square is shut for some carriageway repairs at St Andrews Road. That's likely to cause you a bit of congestion. Not too bad at all now on the Aston Expressway. Traffic's flowing freely in either direction. It was shut early this morning because of a police incident and investigation work going on. Between Park Circus and Dartmouth Circus is all looking much better. Your match day travel sees Blues fans heading off to Bolton. It's a good 2-hour journey, so you better get a move on up the M6 and the M62 as the match kicks off at 12:15. If you can update us, 08453 002288.
Previously on Hunted.
Nobody around, actually. I think they're hiding from me.
Now remember, Debbie, what the bottom line says. They're having a ball, and air passenger will tell you more.
5 clues.
Not to the edge of the water itself, but close to the...
Hang on, we're going right down to the edge.
To find one person in the West Midlands.
Oh, you're just playing games with me, voice.
Hunted.
With Richard Wilford.
This Sunday morning from 9.
BBC WM.
95.6.
Michael has emailed in ian.lee@bbc.co.uk. Ian, I've said this before and I'll say it again, it's down to parental control. There's a saying that you bring up your children in your own image. Teachers should build upon discipline in school, which is already established in the home. Teachers are there to teach first and foremost. Perhaps I'm old-fashioned. In fact, I am. And let's just do one more. Let's go to Mark. Ian, very difficult one trying to get into the heads of these youngsters to try and stop them carrying knives into schools. I'm lucky I've never been of that mentality to even think about carrying weapons. I found it very difficult to forgive people that have done me wrong. I just wipe them out of my life. OK, we're talking about saying sorry a bit later on. Clifford hasn't. Clarkson has. Does it make a difference? Do you judge a person differently if they say sorry? 03453 009956. On the subject of knives, who's been there the longest? Paul, stay there. I'll come to you in a second. Let's go to Vince in Selly Oak. Morning, Vince.
Morning, Ian.
Vince, what would you like to say?
I think that it's a high time all schools had these metal detectors.
No, why?
How many more lives have got to be taken?
Well,
how many more families have got to lose a loved one?
Vince, in terms of stabbings in schools, we've only had, and by using the word only, it sounds like I'm demeaning it, and I'm not, but we've only had one fatal stabbing in a school. And it's one too many, it's a tragedy, it's awful, but it is a knee-jerk reaction to then go and put up metal detectors outside every single school.
Well, you have to have metal detectors in airports, don't you?
Yeah, well, because quite a few more people have been killed via things that have been carried onto planes that are naughty.
Isn't it better to have one of these detectors? Isn't life precious? You can't replace a life, can you?
It wouldn't. I tell you, it wouldn't work. I can tell you why it wouldn't work. Right? I can tell you 2 reasons it wouldn't work. First of all, it would mean the school day starting about an hour earlier as kids queued up. I'll give you 3 reasons. An hour earlier for them to queue up to go through. Secondly, if they go through, if a 14-year-old goes through and it buzzes, someone's going to have to frisk that child. And they wouldn't be allowed to frisk that child. You're not allowed to touch them, let alone frisk them. And thirdly, if I wanted to get a knife into that school, I would go round to the fence at the back of the playing field, I'd get a knife, I'd wrap it in a sock, and I'd chuck it over there and grab it at break time.
Yeah.
You see? It's not enough, unless you...
Go on.
I was going to say, it's just not enough of a practical measure to stop those knives getting in. I think I've silenced you, Vince. Thank you. I knocked him out with one punch of words. Paul's in West Brom. Morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Paul, what would you like to say, sir?
Knife crimes. As you know, knife crimes have been happening for hundreds of years, right? There's been happening murders, whatever, regarding knives. It's an easy weapon to carry. You hide it easy. Now, the trouble is with the children at school today, damn children, they think like children. Now, they start hanging around with gangs. Now, and they've got to think they have to protect themselves. So these there, they put a knife in the pocket, it makes them feel good, it makes them look hard, and, it's to do with gangs. Now, I do think we're going to end up like America in the long run. I do think we will have metal detectors. The old story is we're always 10 years behind the Americans, and I can see that actually coming. This is only the tip of the iceberg. You're going to see a lot more crimes over the years. As people are going to get knifed, they are going to get killed, and I think it is going to get worse. Now, what I would like to see is, in the last, say, 6 months of senior school, I would like to see intensive education regarding sex education, drugs, money, debt, knives and crime, where people are shown shock tactics, shock videos. I would like these kids to go into hospitals and to see people that's been on drugs or that's been affected by knives. I'd like more sex education, some intensive sex education, because when I left school, I hadn't got a clue what to expect with life. I left school, I was suddenly thrown into the wide open world, and I didn't know, what to expect. Now, I don't think kids really know what to expect when they leave school. The first thing they do, they go out, they start drinking and probably end up taking drugs, and, they've got the freedom in front.
Paul, what age are you suggesting that they have this intensive education?
In the last 6 months of senior school.
So what's that, 16, 17, 18?
Yeah, 16, 17, something like that.
Too late.
But it's intensive.
It's too late.
Intensive.
It's too late. I'd had my first drink at the age of 15. I know people who were rolling joints at break time at the age of 14.
Well, yeah,
it's too late.
I know the same. I mean, my mates, I had a mate called Jet Harris, and he was stabbed at the Queen's Head at Worley by his best mate. He stabbed him, and he managed to crawl to somebody's front door, and he died in the arms of that person. Simply because he would not give him a lift home from a club. And he was a real nice, gentle kid, and his best mate stabbed him. People have been stabbing each other for hundreds of years. But it's got to be done at school. What age, I don't know. I mean, I'm no expert on that. But it needs to be more intense, the training does. More education, you need people coming and talking to them. But these kids need to be taken into hospitals as well.
Paul, listen, I'm going to end it there. Thank you. Education, of course, is an important factor. Of course it is. I just don't know how much of an impact it was. Kids know that if you stab someone with a knife, they could die, don't they? And I'm saying kids, I mean, that's patronising. I'm a 40-year-old man, though, I can get away with it. Kids, young people know if you stab someone with a knife, A, it's going to hurt a lot, B, they could die. They know that. So having a class where you say, listen, if you have knives, then someone might die. Well, they know that, don't they? They're not stupid. And showing people the bad effects of drug taking, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and I'll tell you why it doesn't work. I had a friend whose heroes, these were his heroes, OK, when he was 15 years old, right? Well, Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, a man who went insane because of the amount of drugs he took. Keith Moon from The Who, a man who died because of the amount of drugs and alcohol he took. Syd Barrett from Pink Floyd, a man who lost his mind because... You see where I'm going with this, right? And yet this kid took a load of drugs. He went and took a load of drugs, despite looking up to people whose lives, whose mental health had ended because of the amount of drugs they took. So saying to a group of young people, yeah, you know what, if you take drugs, that's really bad, they won't believe it, because when you're 14, 15, 16, this is one of the things I do remember, you are immortal. You are untouchable. You will never die. You will never get sick. There's a strong chance you've never lost anybody, so you never will. Or maybe you have lost somebody, and so you're doing these things to hide from the pain and the fear. 03453 009956. Jeff's in Hodge Hill. Morning, Jeff.
Morning.
Jeff, now listen, it says on my screen you're one of me. You hate football.
I certainly do. With a passion, I hate football.
Tell me why.
It's the the overemphasis on football throughout my life. You know, at school, it was always football, and the only people that were sort of looked after at school were people who played football. I mean, I'm into sport. Don't get me wrong. I was a cyclist, but that was just ignored. It was just football all the time. And when I started work, it was like you walk into the restroom and everybody's got the back page and they're talking about we played Saturday, and I don't understand this we played Saturday stuff.
I felt as a younger boy and a younger man, I felt left out because I couldn't enjoy those football conversations.
I did, yeah.
And I did for a while. I did try and fake it, and I used to pretend that I was into football, and I would remember getting football annuals and football, and I just because I felt I had to do it to be part of what was going on.
Yeah, that's true. I think I did that up till about the age of 30, and then I just decided, no, I'm not the person who should be sort of joining in with this. I'm the person who should be being honest and saying, come on, this is foolish, this is silly, you know, it's just a silly game, and there's lots of more important things in the world going on that we should be looking at.
I mentioned this right at the end of last week's show, and I think it's still pertinent. I was furious with the BBC, a corporation I love and respect, and indeed it pays my mortgage. Thanks, guys. Yeah. I was furious with them for the amount of coverage they gave to David Moyes losing his job at Manchester United. A millionaire has been sacked from his job and will get millions of pounds payout. It was the lead story all over the BBC.
Yeah. I turned off all the time. Every time that story came off, it would go. Well, I turn off on every sport, and there's so much on WM, so it's pretty hard. I have to keep swapping stations, you know.
We're going to be
when you're driving.
Well, Jeff, I should flag up now. You probably need to turn off at about 11 o'clock from this show.
I do. We're
doing a couple of sports. Jeff, also, it says on my screen, you're at a car boot sale. Is that right?
I am actually, yeah.
I'm a huge car boot fan. And I've not been to one for years because eBay and the internet and Free Cycle and all of these, the Gumtree, I thought they'd killed off the car boot sale.
Well, I think it has to a degree, because I couldn't find any. I live in Worcester, the Worcester area, and I couldn't find any in the Worcester area. This morning I've looked on the internet, I can't find anything. So I've come all the way to Hogs Hill, which is, you know, about 20-odd mile away from where I live. So
that's dedication.
Yeah,
are you buying or selling?
I'm buying and then probably selling.
Oh, man, I love it.
You know what I mean?
What kind of stuff are you looking for?
I'm just looking for children's baby stuff and that, because my daughter's got a shop that sells second-hand baby clothes and stuff in Upton on 7. So I just collect a few bits and pieces. We clean them up and sell them on.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. There's nothing more and my wife has never got this. She thinks I'm disgusting for wanting to go to a car boot sale. There is nothing more fascinating than looking through other people's tats.
I did become a bit of a hoarder through them, to be honest, a few years ago, and my daughter sort of nagged me to death and said, Dad, you've got to get rid of all this stuff, and I must have got rid of about 3 skipfuls, you know, down the tip, and I'll try to be a bit more selective now.
Jeff, listen, well done you for mentioning the car boot sales. Big fan. I love a car boot sale. I used to go to them every week. I used to go to buy like old retro video games, like Spectrums and Commodores and all that kind of stuff. And I would go and I'd come back with a Commodore 64 and a sack full of games. And my wife would be, what on earth have you done? I'd go, it only cost me 10 quid. But so what? It's a load of junk. Well, what I would then do is I would play with it a bit and then put it in the attic and never touch it again. That's what I would do. If you're at a car boot sale today, we can have a bit of that, because I do love a car boot sale. 03453 009956 is the phone number. We're talking about knives. We're also talking about saying sorry. And can you sell football to me? It's got to be more than just seeing people take air into their lungs.
We've full commentary of every Warwickshire cricket game this summer, exclusively online. bbc.co.uk/WM.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's 10 o'clock, it's BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the news now with Nicole Pullman.
A police officer has been hurt in a crash on the Aston Expressway in Birmingham. The officer had been responding to reports of men running along the carriageway, and the police car collided with another vehicle heading out of the city towards Spaghetti Junction. The driver of the other vehicle was not badly hurt. A man has been arrested at the scene, and the expressway has now reopened after being closed in both directions for several hours. 31 people have died in a fire at a trades union building in Odessa after clashes between pro-Russian militants and government supporters. At an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, Russia condemned what it termed the criminal adventures of the Ukrainian government. But the US ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power, defended Kiev's actions.
It has been 63 days since Russia began its campaign to annex Crimea. And for 63 days, day after day, the Ukrainian government has chosen peace. Yet in those same 63 days, Russia, day after day, has chosen to pursue more territory.
A fundraising event in Pelsall, planned in memory of murdered soldier Lee Rigby, has had to be cancelled because of council regulations. Walsall Council says paperwork needed so the event can go ahead wasn't submitted in time. A march and a fun fair had been planned. Phil Evans was behind the idea. He says it wasn't their fault the paperwork got missed.
The gentleman in question, he was away on holiday for that 2 weeks. So, you know, I mean, is there only one bloke who can turn around and say yes or no?
Birmingham City could end up in League One after this weekend. They need to beat Bolton today and hope other results go their way to stay in the Championship. There'll be exclusive commentary here on BBC WM 95.6 from 12:15, our build-up starting at midday. Jeff Messer is a football finance expert. He told us the club needs to be financially savvy.
To some extent cut their cloth to suit where they now find themselves. The elements of income that are going to be severe or potentially severely affected, such as TV money, sponsorship, they need to make sure that their player wages are not hugely outstripping the income that they're getting.
And BBC WM has been with fans this morning at St Andrews as they set off for Bolton.
I think we're going to draw 1-1 and Leicester are going to win and we'll stay up on goal difference, hopefully. It's the only one I can think of. I can't think of any other scenario. It's got to be that or else that's it, we're down.
If our form continues like we've been playing away, then hopefully we will win. What I wanted to say, though, is just all the messages I've seen from fans and on Facebook is just win, lose or draw. We'll just keep supporting them.
The weather fine and dry today with some sunshine. The winds will stay light throughout today. The top temperature this afternoon around 15 Celsius, 59 Fahrenheit. Tonight a dry, mild and frost-free night with an overnight low of 5 Celsius, 41 Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
You should take in other religions and treat them as you would want to be treated yourself.
We are even more intelligent. They treated me with the utmost respect.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
Now, no.
BBC WM 95.6.
No. Let me explain. I can see on the monitor the news studio where Nicole does the news from. Boy, she wasn't looking happy then, and rightfully so. Let me apologise for that little break in proceedings. We were having a very, very important meeting about how we're going to take this show through the next hour. Oh, we weren't. We were ordering coffee. I'm really sorry. We were ordering coffee. Someone's going to go and do a coffee run. How long were we off air for? 2 minutes? 3 minutes? I have no idea. Sorry, Nicole. And sorry to you, dear listener. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. Lots to talk about this morning. We're going to carry on the conversation from the first hour about knife crime. How do we change it? How do we stop it? I'll be honest, I don't think we can stop it. It's been around forever. It just evolves and it just changes. But it's the constant theme is there always has been, there always will be knife crime, won't there? 03453 009956. In this hour, we're also talking about saying sorry. Does saying sorry really make a difference? We've had two big stories in the paper this week. Jeremy Clarkson reluctantly saying sorry for using the N-word. And if you've seen the clip, he uses that word. And we've had Max Clifford not saying sorry for committing some awful crimes. If you read the judge's summing up of that Max Clifford case, oh, what a horrible, unpleasant man. So is sorry ever enough? Does sorry really make a difference? I mean, if Clifford came out and said sorry, would that change things? Probably not. And Clarkson has come out and said sorry. Has that changed things? Well, probably not. Your stories of saying sorry, please. And also in this hour, should we be teaching religion in schools? If you want to get in touch, even if it's just to complain about me being silent for a minute while I was making a coffee order, ian.lee@bbc.co.uk. 81333, start your text WM. But the best way to do it, and you've been great this morning, we've got a few lines free, so now if you call now, you'll get on 03453 00 9956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453
00
9956.
BBC WM 95.6.
And also, it's a big day for Birmingham City Football Club. They've got to win by quite a lot, and somebody else has to lose by a significant amount for them to stay where they are, or something. I don't know. I'm coming out of the closet. I don't understand, and I don't like football. Now, I'm aware that saying it on a station such as the mighty BBC WM 95.6, I'm in danger of, contracts not being renewed, shall we say, or being taken into a dark alleyway and giving a sound kicking until I do like football. I don't get it. And I've really tried throughout my 40 years. I have tried. Here's an odd one. I like playing FIFA on the Xbox, but I don't like watching football. I don't particularly like playing football. I don't mind kicking a ball around with my boys, but that's it. Can you sell it to me? What's so exciting about it? What do you get from it? What do you get from it? Earlier on, we spoke to Ranjit. This was him trying to sell the art of football to me.
It's an adrenaline rush, all right? When you go to watch a match, yeah, you watch people run around, exercise, put air into their lungs.
You watch people run around, exercise and put air into their lungs. I'll be honest, that doesn't sound like a fun day out to me. That doesn't sound like a fun thing to me. Try and sell football to me, if you would, please. 03453 00 9956. Religion. We talk about religion quite a bit on this school. It's something, as I get older, kind of intrigues me a bit. Does it have a place in our schools? The Humanist Society has distributed free copies of a secularist text called The Young Atheist's Handbook to every secondary school in England and Wales. It's written by a science teacher, Alam Shahar, who tells his personal journey from growing up as a Muslim in a Bangladeshi community in southeast London to eventually rejecting Islam and embracing atheism. It also includes his reflections on philosophy and theology. Well, Alam joins me on the show. Morning, Alam.
Morning.
Good morning. Why did you write this book?
As you mentioned, I'm a science teacher and have been for about a decade. And I found in my science lessons that children were asking me lessons which I didn't really have time to go into whilst I was trying to teach Newtonian mechanics or whatever. And I felt that they deserved better answers to the questions they were asking. And I thought I'd try and answer them in a book. So I wanted to write a book about the kind of big questions in philosophy that lots of children have, but perhaps don't have, access to, easy to read books and so forth, which address those questions. So I set out to write a book about those questions, but on the advice of my agent, who said, that's a very good idea, but nobody will buy it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that sexy, does it, when you put it like that? No.
That's exactly what she said. And then I was quite disappointed, but just as I was about to give up on the idea, she said, why don't you write about your personal story? Because people relate much more to personal stories. And so what I ended up doing was writing a book which was about all those questions and ideas that I was interested in and that I thought young people would be interested in, but kind of telling it through my own journey and experiences addressing those questions and how I came to think about them.
Well, how did you go from growing up as a Muslim in a Bangladeshi community to rejecting Islam and embracing atheism? What was the progression there?
Well, firstly, I'd like to point out I'm not alone in that. There's lots of people do it, and it really shouldn't be that unusual that someone from my background does that, because I don't think atheism is a Western phenomenon. I think the kind of people all over the world have their own thoughts about these things, and for me, it was just from a very young age. I didn't really get the idea of God, if you like. It didn't sit well with me, and I went to school. I had wonderful experiences at both primary school and secondary school, where I was exposed to books and fantastic teachers and other ways of making sense of the world, which, frankly, just made more sense to me. And that's all I say. I say the idea of God doesn't make sense to me personally, and I have other ways of making sense of the world.
See, as I get older, I'm kind of going the other way. I'm not religious.
Right.
I would definitely have classed myself as an atheist in the past. But as I'm getting older and I'm kind of looking for more meaning in my insipid, meaningless life, I'm kind of starting to open my mind to the fact that to the possibility that there might be a higher power. Not necessarily, some old white dude with a big long beard sitting on a cloud, but that there might be something bigger than us.
Sure, Ian, and that's totally understandable, and I think that happens to an awful lot of people. But I would say to you, if you're looking for meaning and purpose in your life, look around you, because we humans create our own meaning. We make our own purpose. And actually, I often say this. I say all the things other people look for in God and sometimes find in God, love, meaning, comfort, purpose, we can find in each other. And so I would encourage you to develop your relationships with your family, your friends, your lovers, and build on those and work on those, because I think we can all help each other to really suck the marrow out of life. And we don't need to think about, things that don't have any evidence for existing. You have evidence that your family love you. You have evidence that you can get joy from. I hope so, anyway.
Well, some of them, yes.
Yes.
Are you not jealous, though, a lot? I'm jealous of the belief that particularly Christians, and Muslims have as well, I guess, the belief that once this ends, these 70 years end, that there's something else on the other side. I'd love to have that belief.
Yeah, so would I. I absolutely agree. However, there's no evidence that there is such a thing. And if you think about it, you can look at it two ways. And there's the famous Pascal's wager, which is you might as well believe, because if God is there, then when you're there, you can say, well, I believed in you all along, let me into heaven. But the flip side of that is, imagine there isn't anything, right? And you've lived your life hoping that there is and working towards some, non-evidence-based idea of an afterlife, and you haven't really lived this life. And for me, it's about I know that I've got this life. I know that I'm alive now, and I know that I need to make absolutely the best of this life that I know I've got.
Should we teach religion in schools?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of religious education. I think religion plays such a big part in human culture and human affairs that we must absolutely educate young people about the different ways of looking at the world, about different ways in which people respond to the world and make sense of it. However, I don't think religious education should be about telling children to believe, but about examining beliefs. I think that's a really important thing to do. And that's really all I'd encourage people to do.
What about faith-based schools, where a lot of the curriculum, whatever the faith may be, is centred in that religion?
I've been to a lot of religious schools. I take part in something called an interfaith project with an organisation called Three Faiths, and I've visited those schools, and I understand why lots of people want to send their kids to such schools. However, my biggest problem really with faith schools is what you're doing is you're segregating children on the basis of their faith. And I'm from Bangladesh, and I arrived in the country in the 1970s when there was awful racism and people really didn't get along with each other. And now we live in a much better place where, blacks and whites get along. We don't have open racism in the streets. I'm in a mixed-race relationship. And I think, one of the reasons why I feel so lucky to have grown up in England is I got to meet lots of different types of people. I got to explore lots of different types of ideas. And I've grown up to be the kind of person I want to be, having explored lots of other ways of being. And that's what I would like for all children, that they can fulfill their potential, be the best humans that they can possibly be. And so I think one way of doing that is allowing young people to see other ways of being, other ways of looking at the world. And if we trust that our children will grow up and make their own decisions. If you really believe that your Christianity or your Islam or your Hinduism is truly the best way forward, then surely you have to have the confidence that your children can come to that conclusion for themselves. Why would you need to indoctrinate them? Why would you need them to grow up in that culture? If it's truly the best culture or
they'll
the best
find it
religion for
themselves.
them, then they'll find it themselves. Yeah.
Alom, thank you. Listen, we're out of time. It's Alom Shahar who's written the book, The Young Atheist's Handbook. the Humanist Society is distributing it to various schools in England and Wales. What do you think? Along there saying that, yeah, we should have religious education in schools. What do you think? Is there a place for it? And also faith-based schools are the ones that kind of leave me scratching my head a little bit, because you are sending children to a school where they are being told that Islam, that Hinduism, that Judaism, that Christianity is a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact that when you die, you go to heaven. It's a fact that God made the earth in 7 days. These are facts. And is that right? I believe some of these Christian schools also teach creationism. Is that true? You know, creation, the world was made in 7 days and it's only about 3,000 years old? Really? Gosh. 03453 009956. Religion in schools. Is there really a place for it, or do you think it can be damaging to the children? BBC WM 95.6. Here's the travel with Liz.
Thank you, Ian. As you make your way in and out of Birmingham, it's looking rather congested on Pershaw Road as you head towards the Belgrave Middleway in the Edgbaston area. Through Handsworth is busy on Soho Road, around Bolton Road, along the A41. Just a reminder that in Droitwich, Victoria Square is shut for carriageway repairs at St Andrews Road. That's likely to cause you a bit of congestion. Police have been and scooped up the debris off the northbound M6 at junction 4, the M42. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 travel 08453 002288.
The match is over. Birmingham City's future in the Championship is hanging by a thread. They will go into the final day on Saturday lunchtime at Bolton, needing to get a better result than Doncaster Rovers.
The voice of Birmingham in the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
Well, the reason that the show faltered at the top of the hour is because the coffee order was being put in. Well, let's just say it was worthwhile. The coffee has arrived. Thank you, producer Joe. She finally put her hand into her purse and pulled out some loose change. Excellent stuff indeed. 03453 009956. I told you it was kind of a scattergun approach today. There's not really a lot for us to... Or there's not... Let me rephrase that. There's not really a big story for us to get our claws into. So we're doing lots of different little bits and pieces. As always, you can call in any time about any of them. We start off the first hour about knife crime. How do we stop knife crime? Is there really a way of stopping it? It's kind of evolved into that argument of should we put scanners in schools? I really don't think we can. We can't put metal detectors into schools. Can we? A, that would be really, really sad. It would be just a sad thing. B, it wouldn't work. Metal detectors in schools so that every kid that goes through it gets scanned wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Because these will be 14-year-old kids, right? Imagine a 14-year-old girl goes through a scanner, it beeps. Someone has to then frisk her. Ain't never going to happen. You can't touch them. You cannot touch them, and rightfully so. So that wouldn't work. And also, if I was still at school and I wanted to get a knife into the school, I would go to the furthest fence, the back of the school playing fields. Do they still have playing fields? I would wrap a knife in a sock and I'd chuck it over, and then I'd go and get it at break time. You see, it's a flawed system. We can't have scanners in schools. It wouldn't work. 03453 009956. We're talking about that. We're also asking about religion in schools. Does it ever have a place? I think religious education does. It has to, doesn't it? Because we have to, and I think we should possibly have more religious education. I think a lot of the world's ills, a lot of this country's ills, would be eradicated if we were less fearful of those we are afraid of. And let's be honest, there is a certain element of the white Christian background who are afraid of the brown Muslim background. There are Christians. A lot of people are afraid of Muslims because we hear bad. They're all bombers. Whereas if we had more education about Islam, we wouldn't be. There are people who are turned off by Christians because, for whatever reason, if we knew more about Christianity, perhaps we wouldn't be. And the same with Judaism. The same with all of them. So if we have more education in schools about religion, that has to be a good thing. The thing that makes me uncomfortable is the thought of... I remember sitting through tedious religious assemblies where there would be a reading from the Bible. OK, we're going to bow our heads and pray. And I would bow my head and pray. There'd always be one tough kid who wouldn't, who'd just sit there, arms crossed, staring ahead, and he'd get a right royal rollicking afterwards. You can't force people to bow their heads and pray. So the religious assembly worries me slightly, as does the faith-based school, whatever faith it may be. I find that very unsettling, that the whole ethos of that establishment, that school, that place where young people are going and having their ideas and their thoughts and their world shaped, comes from a religious viewpoint. That's got to be quite damaging, hasn't it? Did I just say faith schools have got to be quite damaging? Yeah, I did. And I think I mean it. 03453 009956. Just how damaging can faith schools be? Maybe you completely disagree. Maybe you think they're wonderful, wonderful places. If your kids or your grandkids or you went to one, then let me know. But religious education in schools, what exactly is the place? 03453 009956. And on a day when lots of football clubs are doing stuff and really keeping their fingers crossed that they do stuff well, and then other clubs do stuff badly so that they can stay in the same place, I'm asking you to sell football to me. I don't get it. Don't get it. I like playing FIFA on the Xbox. I love that. But I don't like football. I don't get it. I can see Daz is in the studio next door. Maybe I'll get him to come in a bit and try and sell it to me. 03453 009956. Sell football to me. Alan's in Willington. Morning, Alan.
Morning, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Are you a fan of football?
Well, I am, yeah, actually. This phone call is like a double whammy thing.
Oh.
Because we are talking about knife crime and gangs and stuff like that.
Yep.
Now, for many years, I actually coached kids for a professional football club, doing football classes during the summer. And, you know, even now at the minute, I take my grandson to football. So every Saturday morning, you can have up to 50, 60 kids on a playing field playing football. And this is a type of organised thing, even because if they weren't playing football, where would they be?
Playing Xbox.
They'd be out in the streets.
Playing Xbox or running or doing archery or doing karate. They find any other number of things to do.
Or hanging around on the streets with gangs.
Well, they might. The thing is, Alan, they might still be hanging around on the streets with gangs after they've put their football kit away. You never know.
Yeah, it's true, but I think if everybody makes the effort to perhaps take the kids away from their Xboxes, I'll fully agree with you. Because a lot of the kids I coached later on in their time got muscles in their thumbs and they'd got in their legs and whatever, you know. But I think if people make the effort to go out and do these things with the kids, actually get their attention rather than shove them in front of a telly or shove them in front of an Xbox, then, you know, I think this are all... Where do they get some of their stuff from? Knife crime and crimes? Playing these stupid games on Xbox.
No, Alan. Do you know what? I'm not going to buy that, because what about the knife crime that happened in the 60s? They didn't get it from Xbox. What about the knife crime in the 70s? They didn't get it from playing Atari. I don't think there was. I was waiting for it, and it happened. The teacher that got stabbed. One of the newspapers, I think may have been the Times, said, and the young man accused of it has been playing violent video games. Oh no! There's no this argument, Alan. I will defend.
I'll agree with you. You can't apportion all of it.
You can't. Listen.
Well, probably very little of it.
Very little. I think that video games. I think they teach response time. I think they teach hand-eye coordination. They are not the lonely activity they used to be, because most of these kids playing Xbox and PlayStation and games on their computers, they're online. They've got little headsets. They're talking to other people.
Yeah, I'll agree with you that. But, I mean, I always feel as well, though, they're talking to people on the social media and stuff like that. But that is not... It's the same as me and you now. We're talking via telephone.
Yes.
But would our reactions to each other, body language, that be different if we were face-to-face?
Yeah. What are you saying? Can we get rid of phones?
Well, not get rid of them, obviously, because we need communications. But what I'm saying is, if they could actually... meet up with these people as well as speak to them on Xbox and telephone.
Well, hang on, but we've always... but Alan, that's no different from having telephones, from writing letters, having pen pals.
No. Exactly, yeah.
Alan, we're going off on a slight tangent. I appreciate your call, thank you. Alan there saying that if we took more of our kids to play football, there'd be less knife crime. I don't get that. Because what happens when they finish playing football? Well, they might go and stand on a street corner with a knife. And I'm not... We can do this if you want. It gets me really angry, no disrespect to Alan, a little bit. It gets me really angry when people say, oh yeah, the reason there's so much crime and the reason there is so much violence is because of video games. No, It's nonsense. No, it's not. Don't start nodding, Producer Joe, because you're getting me angry now. It's nonsense. It is nonsense. Maybe a very, very tiny percentage. Do you remember in the 80s, it was video nasties? Then in the late 80s, early 90s, it was heavy metal music. And now it's not. It's not. There will always. I know what. Here's my argument. Right? Why don't we go and ban Catcher in the Rye, the book? Let's ban Catcher in the Rye, the book. Why, you ask? I'll tell you why. Because Mark Chapman, the fella that shot John Lennon, was obsessed with Catcher in the Rye and he kept reading it. So because there is a direct connection between Catcher in the Rye, a novel, and the murder of a 60s pop legend, we should ban all books. It doesn't work. There will always be a tiny percentage, minute percentage of people whose grasp on reality is so unhinged that they can't differentiate between playing Grand Theft Auto and real life. They can't differentiate between watching what's that film with Taxi Driver? That's it. They can't differentiate between watching Taxi Driver or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and real life. Always, those people are nuts. I don't think that's the medical term for it. I don't think that you would get a doctor's diagnosis. But those people are nuts. They are mentally ill. They are unhinged. They will always be there. So why should I like playing video games. Why should I be punished for the people who can't differentiate between them pressing a green button with an X on it and real life? I'll tell you this now. The connection between video games and violence is... No. I'm not... buying it. 03453 009956. Hang on a second. Magnus! We've lost Magnus. We've lost our call from Germany. It says on my screen, Magnus in Germany. How on earth does that work? No one's calling in from Birmingham and the West Midlands and the Black Country, but we're getting someone calling in from Germany. How on earth is that happening? We're trying to get Magnus back. 03453 009956 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. I think we've got Magnus back on. I've got a couple of texts as well, which I will get to in a second. Oh, Michael, is it called? Producer Joe really is doing her best to make me look worse than usual. I don't need any help to look bad, Joe. I don't need any help to look bad. I can do it perfectly well myself. Michael!
Yes, Michael is my name.
Why did we think you were called Magnus?
I don't know. It was... just a misunderstanding about the names.
OK. Would you mind if we called you Magnus?
I beg your pardon?
Would you mind if we called you Magnus?
I wouldn't mind.
OK. You're German, are you?
Yes.
OK. Hast du Geschwister?
Ja.
Wie heißt sie?
2 Schwestern, Nadine und Claudia heißen.
Oh. And, wo ist die Umkleidekabine? Entschuldigung Sie, Magnus, wie komme ich am besten zum Bahnhof, bitte?
Ja, da gehen Sie die Straße geradeaus, dann biegen Sie die zweite Straße rechts ab und dann sind Sie schon da.
Danke.
Ja, bitte.
Ich wohne in Slough. Das ist in Südostengland.
Oh, okay.
Ich bin 13 Jahre alt.
Aha.
Wie alt bin du?
30.
Oh, das ist sehr gut, ja?
Ja.
Einfach klasse.
Ja.
So, Michael, why did you call in?
Yeah, I called him because...
you passed, but just to say, Magnus, you passed the German test. I had to.
Yeah.
I had to do that test to ensure you were a real
Indeed.
Auf dem Deutsch, and indeed you are, sir.
Yes.
Oh, what a lovely laugh you've got.
I'm calling in order to say something to the subject of saying sorry.
Oh, OK, I'm worried where this is going. Go on, why would you, a caller from Germany, like to say sorry?
Yeah, I think it's important to say sorry because of raising the awareness whether we did something wrong or not. And therefore, yeah, it's important to use the word.
When did you last use the word sorry? Oh.
I didn't catch it.
When did you last use the word sorry?
Last year. I didn't remember, actually. But
didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh. So have you ever used the word sorry?
Yeah, I used it. For instance, if I just bumped into somebody and, on my way.
Yeah.
And then I said, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Mike, I've got to ask, why on earth are you listening to BBC WM 95.6 in Germany?
Yeah, I'm listening to it because I study English and I would like to improve the language skills. And therefore, I listen to it and, yeah.
Don't listen to me, Michael. If anything, I'll make your language skills worse.
I don't think so.
You've got a wonderful little giggle. What do you do? You're 30. Did I get that from your German?
Yes.
You're 30. Okay. And what do you do for a living in Germany? Whereabouts in Germany are you?
In Cologne.
Cologne. Okay. Oh, I've been to Cologne. That's the place with the bridge, isn't it? With all the padlocks on. The bridge with yes, with the locks on that people write their lovers' names on.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, it's a and what do you do for a living, Michael?
Now I'm studying.
Yes.
And yes.
Okay. Well, listen, you can help me on something here, Michael. I'm helping you. Well, you owe me. Germany is a very proud nation when it comes to football. Die Fußball. Die Fußball.
Yes.
Do you like football, Michael?
Yeah, not that much. In my youth time, I listened to football with others, but I couldn't just. Yeah, I listened to it, but now I don't.
It's boring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Die Fußball ist dull.
Yeah, it's a bit. I don't see the sense, but.
Michael, listen, you're a great sport, and I really hope you call again. Thank you so much. Can I ask you to do me a favour? In German, could you say you're listening to Iain Lee on BBC WM 95.6?
Okay. Sie hören gerade. Sie hören BBC. Can you repeat the sentence?
Yes,
you're listening to?
Yes. So you're listening to Iain Lee, that's me, on BBC WM 95.6.
Sie hören gerade Iain Lee auf BBC WM 90,6.
Michael, you're a cracking sport. Thank you very much indeed. Jill's on the line. Morning, Jill.
Hello, I've just been forced on against my will, really.
That's what we do here at the BBC. That's what. Listen, if people don't want to come on, we put a gun up against their head and said, you're going on.
That's it. I was just laughing with the lady or the gentleman on the phone. You've just announced to the West Midlands that you're 13 years old.
Yes, that's when my German lesson stopped. That's as far as I got. Ich bin 13 Jahre alt.
Yeah.
How would I say I'm 40?
Ich bin 40.
40, yeah, ich bin 40, okay.
I think.
I was
probably wrong.
I like the German language. The German language is bonkers because when they need a new word, what they do is they just add words together.
Yeah.
So they have really, really long words. Instead of
Yeah.
coming up with a new word, they'll add different bits of words to old bits of words.
Yeah, but then you can work out what it means.
You can do. It's a very straightforward language. Jill,
Yeah.
wasn't that nice to have a caller from Germany?
It was unusual.
It made my day. Jill, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Jill. Yeah, we force people to come on. That's what we do here. We're not shy. We don't mind.
Pensnet,
Rugeley, Redditch,
Rowley Regis. Have your say across the West Midlands.
BBC WM
95.6.
I love that. Wasn't he a good sport? Michael, what did we think he was called? Magnus? How weird is that? I feel the pressure is on now to speak properly, and I'm expecting a lot from you, dear callers. Because we have people listening, it turns out in Germany, in Cologne, wonderful part of the world. I once had some great spaghetti in Cologne. We have people listening all over the world who are listening to learn English. There may even be people from different planets who are picking up our radio signals to learn English. So I'm expecting high standards from all of my calls. I'm expecting high standards from you, Teresa.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think you're always right, that you know all the answers? Have you asked a boy who carries a knife why he's done it, or stabbed somebody? Have you asked them the reason why they've done it? No, you haven't. You see, it's do-gooders like you. There you were saying about the children coming into school. Teachers not allowed to examine them or frisk them. But how do you know a policeman is not gay or a paedophile like that? You've no way of telling beforehand. You don't know what a policeman is.
You started off well, Teresa, and then you completely lost me in the last sentence there. Let's address one point at a time. How do I know I'm always right? Well, generally I am. Have I spoken to a young person who's carried a knife and stabbed someone? No, I haven't. Teachers are not allowed to frisk children. That's a fact.
Well, they could have a buzzer that they go straight to the police station.
So every time a child walks through, this is if we have metal detecting scanners at schools.
Yes.
Every time a child walks through and it goes off, a buzzer goes to the police station.
Yes.
Do you really think that's practical?
Oh yes,
Because it will go.
The doctors in the hospital, when they're on call, they have a buzzer, or nurses have buzzers.
Teresa, imagine you've got 1,000 kids in a school.
Yes.
That buzzer's going to go off. Let's be generous, 500 times.
Yeah, well.
So you want a little policeman's pager to go off 500 times?
No, it wouldn't go off. Not every child will be carrying a knife.
No, Teresa. It's not a knife detector. It's a metal detector.
A metal detector.
So
yeah.
it would detect metal. Keys, phones, coins, belts, some watches. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm right on that one.
And about the faith schools. Have you ever gone voluntary one day incognito to a faith school and just notify the head teacher beforehand and ask to sit in just to see what's done? They're not teaching religion all day in faith school. You're doing maths, you're doing science. They're doing all the subjects. You have your day for religion and that's it. In my old school years ago, our teacher was a great gardener. We had a garden. We were out Thursday and Friday for an hour doing gardening. How are you going to pray and doing gardening?
Well,
this is the thing. You should, some faith school, just let the head teacher know you're coming and go incognito. Don't have it set for a certain day. Just go in and see what goes on and sit for a day. And then they're doing all the different subjects.
Teresa, I didn't say they weren't doing all the different subjects, and I didn't say they were doing religion all the time.
But you're giving the idea that they're teaching religion all the time.
No, I didn't say that, Teresa.
No, I know, but you're giving that idea.
No, you've got that idea. You've not got that from me. Shall I tell you what I said?
Yes.
What I said was, I thought, and I can understand why there's a lot going on. What I said was that faith schools, their whole ethos was based on religion. That means that the prime core of that school comes from a religious background, which it does, which is a faith school.
Children what's right and wrong. If there was more religion in school, we wouldn't have these knives.
Teresa, whereabouts are you from? I'm getting an accent.
Northern Ireland.
Okie dokie. If there was more religion at school, we wouldn't have all these knife crimes.
Yes,
hang on a second. Hasn't there been a little bit of something worse than knife crime in Ireland, Northern and Southern, because of religion?
I know it's not. It's because Ireland was the Northern Ireland and the Catholics didn't get fair play. You couldn't get a house, a job.
Well, you've mentioned the Catholics, so you've instantly brought religion into it.
From 1922, Catholics they got all the rubbish jobs.
Okay, so in your...
It was all so divided.
Okay.
The Catholic...
So the religion in Northern Ireland, as well as the politics, but the religion in Northern Ireland between the Catholics and the Protestants has caused worse than knife crime, and you're saying we should have knife crime we should have religious studies in every single school because that would reduce knife crime. Yet you come from a country where that has been proved incorrect.
Well, we know who divided Ireland. We won't go into that. But we know who created that.
The rights and wrongs of having a divided Ireland, I don't know the full story. I don't know what the answer is. But I know a lot of it is based on differences of opinions over religion.
Well, this is the thing. But we've all have to blame Henry VIII for that, haven't we?
Well, we could go back that far, but we could also make a change now by not having schools where their primary belief system is based on a religion.
Well, all the people might think you're different. The parents of children may think, why do they send them to faith schools? Because they know they get good teaching there.
Yeah, which I think is unfair. That faith schools, I believe, and someone can correct me on this, they get more money, I think, which is why they can afford better teachers, which is why they have such high standards. A significant number of people who send their children to, let's say, Catholic schools aren't Catholic. They go and get their kids baptised in the Catholic religion, but they're not just to get them in the school.
No, there's all black kids, Asian kids, all kids, type of kids going to Catholic schools.
I think you can get black and Asian Catholics as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So the reason, Teresa, I hope we've cleared that up. The reason why I think I'm right all the time is because generally I am.
I'm turning over to Smooth now. That's what I do when I get fed up with you and Adrian Goldberg, whatever his name is. I go over to Smooth.
Okay, but you'll be back later on, won't you?
Pretend.
Of course you will, Teresa. Thank you very much. The reason I think I'm right most of the time is because generally I am. It's not arrogant. It's not arrogance. It's fact. And with all of those points, I think I cleared those up pretty well. 03453 009956. Thank you, Teresa. Enjoy Smooth, and then we'll speak to you a bit later on. She'll be coming back later on. Who's been here the longest? Dawn has. Morning, Dawn.
Morning.
Dawn, what have you got for us?
So, I just working, jumping in and out of the car all the time. And the first thing I heard when I put the radio on was, if I want to get a knife in school, I'd wrap it up and throw it over the fence.
Yeah.
Which, really, it's telling people what to do.
Dawn, no, it's not. This was somebody who said that we should have scanners in schools, and I said it won't work for several reasons. One of them being that if I wanted to get a knife into a school, I would put it in a sock, chuck it over a fence, and go and get it at break time. I don't think that's. I'm sure that younger people would think of more imaginative ways. I don't think I'm giving anyone ideas by suggesting that.
All right. It was just hit me when I got in the car that I just heard from that.
No. Hey, Dawn, are you beautiful?
Nah, not really.
So there is. Producer Joe has been telling me there is a way to find out if you're beautiful. Can you get? You know your Peter Pointer? Can you point it up for me? Right. And with the pointy bit, touch your nose, and then with the bit that's connected to your hand, touch your chin. Right. Yeah. Are your lips touching your finger?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, then you're not beautiful, sorry.
That's what I told you now in the first place.
Well, you were right. You were honest. Dawn, thank you. This is apparently the new science. You try it. You get your Peter Pointer. Dawn's not beautiful. I feel bad telling her, but it's a fact. Get your Peter Pointer. Producer Joe, keep the noise down a bit. I'm trying to do a radio show, love. It's exciting that Daz is back. Yeah, we're all excited. Of course we are. We're over the moon. But, let's keep a bit of suspense. He walked past you 10 minutes ago. Did you not notice? Get Peter Pointer, put it at the end of your nose, and then the other bit touches your chin. And if it touches your lips, that means you're beautiful. Now, I don't know what science that is based on, but apparently it's true. Ben, are you beautiful?
Am I beautiful?
Yeah, are you beautiful, Ben?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, okay. Good for you.
Iain, very first time I've ever caught your show. Usually I'm still in bed on a Saturday morning.
What? Hang on, in bed at this time of the day?
Yes.
Flipping hell, that's brilliant.
It is.
Good for you.
Don't have to be up till we're ready to go to the football, Iain.
Oh.
Which is the reason for my call.
Go on.
So first time I've caught your show.
Yeah.
Very, very disappointed to hear you call football dull.
Oh, sorry.
In all honesty.
Yeah.
No, because, Iain, this is why. WM provides the best coverage of football in the country.
I know it does. It's got great football coverage, yes.
It is phenomenal. And a lot of the presenters are very aware that everybody listening to WM has an interest in football and the local teams. To call football dull is alienating a vast percentage of your listeners, and perhaps if that's the way you feel, then is WM the right station for you?
Yeah.
Or is Smooth the right station for you where there's no football?
Can we stop butt-plugging Smooth? They're doing well enough as it is. Well, listen, Ben, it's interesting you say that, because I bet, and listen, I'm fully aware, we've got Daz coming on next, who's a brilliant sports reporter. The WM does have some fantastic football coverage. They do it brilliantly. But I suspect that there are a significant number of listeners who don't like the football, and they do switch off when the football bits come on. I suspect I'm not alone.
I suspect you're right, but to call it dull, I mean, if you listen to Paul Franksy's show last night, and they put together a little montage, which I think it's Mark Regan who perhaps does the music bits, somebody giving a fantastic tribute to Clive Clark, the former Albion winger, and it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck.
Because you like football.
But no, this is a chap. It was a beautiful piece of radio done to the Lord is my shepherd. I defy that not to move anybody.
But that's not football though. That's not football.
But football isn't just the game itself. It's a whole world. It's a whole culture. And to describe it as dull on a station that is vital in promoting West Midlands football when it's overlooked by the national media, I think it's just a bit out, Ian. So just do me a favour and you know.
Okay, I won't call it dull. I won't call it dull.
Prejudiced views probably aren't a great way to go on radio.
I won't call it dull.
Thank you.
Boring?
Thank you. No, but it's not boring, is it? That's why.
But it is. But Ben, to me, and a significant number of people, it is boring.
Well, keep it to yourself, because I think you're going to annoy a lot of your listeners here. You know, if you had racist views, Ian, you wouldn't share those on the radio.
Ben, I've got to let you go. You were doing really well until the last point. You can't compare, or maybe you can. You can't compare my disinterest with football. You can't compare that to racism. Can you? Ben, cracking call, mate. Thank you very much indeed. It is BBC WM 95.6, the home of football, and rightfully so. Let's get the travel now with Liz Saul.
Thank you very much, Ian. As you head in and out of Birmingham, there's a bit of congestion around through Kings Heath on the High Street, Pershaw Road in Edgbaston, heading towards Belgrave Middleway in the centre of the city, and in Droitwich, just a reminder that Victoria Square still shut for carriageway repairs at St Andrews Road, and that's likely to cause you a bit of disruption. Your matchday travel sees quite a few home games this afternoon. Of course, you've got early kick-off with the away game at Bolton for Blues fans. That kicks off at 12:15. You'll find that Aston Villa at home at the Villa Ground, 3 o'clock kick-off there, but obviously matchday restrictions in place. That's also going to come into effect as far as the Wolverhampton game is concerned. They're at home at the Molineux, Walsall as well at Banks's Stadium, so just be mindful of that. Expect delays around the NIA because there's a karate championship going on till 8 o'clock this evening. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
He gave me singing lessons to sort of keep me quiet, so to speak.
She's a Hollywood legend celebrating 50 years in cinema.
Both films are really about family. The music's great.
The star of musical favourites Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music is coming to Birmingham.
For a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
The wonder of Mary Poppins was there. Children are still viewing it, and that's amazing.
You can hear my special interview with film star Dame Julie Andrews this Tuesday from 9.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
What? Never seen The Sound of Music. Never seen The Sound of Music. But, sorry, Adrian Goldberg has got Mary Poppins on his show? That's the coolest booking ever. That's amazing. We love Mary Poppins in our house. We love it. Never seen The Sound of Music. Doesn't interest me in the slightest. But Adrian Goldberg, fair play. We might as well just all give up now. It literally will not get any better than that. And if you think I'm being sarcastic, shame on you, I'm not. My boys love Mary Poppins. I love Mary Poppins. We went to Disneyland, Euro Disney, the other day. We saw Mary Poppins. It was the most exciting thing. That and Woody. Those were the two that got us most excited. Mary Poppins is going to be on... I am flabbergasted. Everyone's doing the Mary Poppins and Sound of Music impressions now. Good for you. Ah, dear. David's in Tamworth. David, can you believe Adrian Goldberg's got Mary Poppins on his show?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Oh, David, come on, don't be such a... It's Mary flipping Poppins.
Oh, he has all the big names on, mate.
Hello, Mary Poppins. Hello, Mary Poppins. Can we get Dick Van Dyke on this show, then? Because I want Bert. Oh, man, I'm genuinely excited about that. I'll have to listen. David, what have you called in about?
About these airport detectors in, metal detectors in schools.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, put it this way, if they do introduce them, I'll go around selling steel-toe cap shoes to all the little kids outside. Wouldn't it be funny?
I've missed the gag slightly, David.
Steel-toe cap shoes.
Yes.
They'll all start wearing them. The buzzer will be going off every 2 minutes.
Well, yes, that to one side. That's why it wouldn't work, because kids have got metal on them. They've got necklaces, they've got belts, they've got phones, and you're not going to... It will be the fun thing to do to see who can get buzzed the most.
Kids are mischievous.
Of course they are. They're kids. That's why we love them and why we hate them.
That's right, yeah. And as the previous caller saying about, we're 10 years behind America, no, they have guns in America, and they've had the right to bear arms for, 200 years, haven't they? So, I can't see us having a gun problem here.
David, do you like football?
I hope Doncaster win today, though.
OK. But the last caller we had on was... And I'm worried that people may be thinking I was making light of him when he said that he compared my hatred of football towards racist views. He was upset that on this station of all stations, the mighty BBC WM 95.6, that I should express my own view and say I found football, dull. Does it make you think any less of me for saying that?
No, you're entitled to your opinion, and I think your show's very good, because I think some people won't. They'll just completely play devil's advocate all the time.
David, thank you very much indeed. Why would I want to annoy people so that they phone in and have a go at me? That's not the act. That's not the act. I don't think I've offended... I think that may be the only caller, the only listener who's been offended by me saying I find football dull. No, I said I wouldn't call it dull, I'd call it boring. And I do. And I'm sure the tribute to the fella we mentioned the other day, I'm sure it was great. I'm sure it was powerful. I'm sure it was fantastic radio. The people that work here are very professional, not all of them. Not the ones on this show. Very talented. What do you want in 2 minutes? Oh, you weren't saying 2 minutes, right? They're very talented. They're excellent at making... I'm sure the package was great. And the coverage we get is great. Daz who's turned up today, which is a miracle in itself. Daz has turned up. He's brilliant. And I listen to Daz's show. But I listen for him. I don't listen for the football. The football, I don't get it. 03453 009956. Chris is in Burton. Morning, Chris.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm worried that I'm losing listeners, and indeed my contract renewal will not happen because I've dared to criticise football.
And long may that live, because I can't stand the game. I can't stand it. I'm pleased you've had the balls to stand up, if you pardon the pun, to actually come out and say that. The one thing, as soon as the football comes on, sorry, but I turn off. Just can't listen to it. I can't watch it. No, thank you.
And Chris, I know this isn't why you've called in, and we'll get to that in a second, but do you ever feel left out because you don't like football? You can't join in certain conversations?
At work, yes. My family, my brother-in-law, two of them, one of them, I'll tell you how bad it is. My sister, her other half, is a Glasgow Rangers fan. And my sister brought a green car. That's the Celtic colours.
Right.
She was told by his uncle, don't buy that car, change it.
Oh.
That's how bad it is up there.
That's that's actually bonkers, isn't it?
Seriously, she changed the car because all the family kept saying, no, you don't buy green colours. You don't do it. That's how bad it is up in Scotland where she is.
And I bet there'll be people like that here as well. People are very passionate about it. And I've honestly, I've worked at it. I've really, really tried. I've even been to a football match. I came away feeling cold and uncomfortable and bored.
Well, you've done better than me, because I haven't even got that. Burton Albion's, 200-yard walk from where my dad lives. You can hear them. Fair play, they're having a good time, but I'll just keep driving past.
Chris?
Never venture to go into it.
03453 009956 if you want to have your say. Chris, that's not why you've called in, though, is it? What do you want to say?
Right then, question for your listeners. Now, I don't know what the moral rights is. Later this week, that poor teacher being stabbed.
Yep.
And my next door neighbour, she's a head of department at school, and she's took me to task about it. She's from South Africa. Brilliant woman, really is. And my boy is 12 years old. He scouts. He's on a scouting weekend this weekend for 3 days. He's absolutely fanatic about Bear Grylls. And I bought a farming land. There's loads of woods there. When I was a kid, about the age of 5, 6 years old, I was up in there playing, making dens, left, right and centre. Just William type of character up in the woods, playing about, having little campfires.
Can we just... Chris, can I just pause for a second?
Yes.
Can we all just remember the joy at making dens? Whether it be whether it be a den in some bushes, whether it be a load of bed sheets and some pillows, whatever it is, the joy of making dens.
I loved it, and hands up, last week We was about to go out, me and my two boys, and actually go and make a den, a proper den like Bear Grylls type of style, but the rain caught us off.
The rain wouldn't have caught Bear Grylls out, Chris.
I know, but I'm getting a bit old for that game now. I'm getting a bit old for that.
Stay in and make a den out of bed sheets.
No, don't be silly. The wife gets cross.
Oh, forget that. My wife hates it when I've got up with the boys early, or she's been out all day at work, and she comes in and we've made a den in the living room with the settees and the bed sheets, and she just comes in and she says, "Right, you got 10 minutes to clear all that stuff up and put it back where you got it from." Oh, I love it. But
You're lucky. We've got 5 minutes in our house.
Oh, but go on. So, what's your point?
No, then. My point is, I mean, about a year ago, he was pestering me for a knife, and I'm like, no. Yes, I had one when I was about 8, 9. But I felt as if I was a bit more grown up then. It was a different world then. And it probably wasn't. You've got more coverage on the internet and whatever, so things are getting reported more. That's why I think the knife crime's gone up and everything, personally. But he's got a little knife, about, 2-inch blade, like a Swiss Army, I don't know if I can say that, type knife, like 3 or 4 different tools on there, like a little saw, whatever, screwdriver piece and either end and what have you. It's about, the blade's about 2 inches long, 2.5 inches, something like that.
Yep.
Am I legally wrong, morally wrong as well, to actually give that to him? He's not having it on, he's got it on the scout camp because we did ask permission. They said, yeah, fair enough, they have it at night. And then during the day when he's doing activities where it might come in useful, he's allowed to have it, fair enough. But he doesn't have it at school when he's not out at the wood playing and what have you with his friends. I take it off him. Am I morally wrong doing that? Am I legally wrong doing that?
I don't... Listen, well, let's throw this out there to the listener. 03453 009956. Should Chris's 12-year-old lad have a penknife? I don't know about the legals, and someone will do, but Chris, I think you're doing exactly the right thing, giving your 12-year-old lad, who likes the outdoors, giving him a little 2-inch penknife. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And I would be almost tempted to say, well, and again, this is where the legal thing comes in, so I don't know, let him have it when he goes out to the woods with his mates.
Yeah.
What a great way for him to learn how to respect a knife. What a great thing to play with. Should I be really saying play with knives? Yeah, I should, because he's 12 and that's what he'll be doing.
Yeah.
I remember having a penknife about 12, and the fun I had, not really doing anything, getting the bark off of sticks. That was pretty much all I did.
Whittling sticks, yeah.
Whittling sticks.
Making little dens, things like that. Making rope swings, like cutting the rope right and whatever you. Making ladders to get up so I could get higher up the tree. That was my life. And, last weekend, on Saturday, we went up to go away up in Cannock. So he was up in the trees, me and my boy. The wife was underneath walking our dog as we were going along the zip wire. That's my life. That's what I love. I can't sit in front of a computer.
No.
Drives me insane. That's what we're like. If I've got it wrong, I've got it wrong, but hey,
Chris, to be honest, from what you've told me, you sound like a cracking dad. It sounds like you're doing the right thing. Keep listening. We'll put that out there. 03453 009956. Chris, he's got a 12-year-old lad. He loves playing in the outdoors. Aren't we saying that kids should be outside more often? Aren't we saying that? Is he right? I don't know about the legal aspect of it. You don't want him running about in the town centre with it. Is he right to allow his 12-year-old boy to have a little Swiss Army knife? It's got a little blade 2 inches long. It's not going to be that sharp, and it'll be blunt within a month. Is he right to let his little boy have that? He's in the Scouts, right? He likes Bear Grylls. They go into the woods to make dens. Is he right? I say yes. I say well done. More young children should have penknives because then maybe, they'd respect the knives anyway. They'd respect them more. To be honest, Chris's boy doesn't sound like the kind of little so-and-so that's coming from a troubled background that is going to resort to knife crime. 03453 009956. Penknives, where do you sit on them? Don't sit on them, it will hurt. Should Chris have given his lad a penknife? Or do you think, actually, come on, in light of what's happened this week in the news with knife crime, it's a terribly irresponsible thing to do? 03453 009956 81333. Start your text WM.
We've full commentary of every Warwickshire cricket game this summer, exclusively online. bbc.co.uk/WM.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's 11 o'clock exactly. Let's get the latest news now with Nicole Pullman.
A man has been arrested after a crash on Birmingham's Aston Expressway in which a police officer was injured. As officers tried to arrest a man running along the road, a car hit the police vehicle. A police officer was taken to hospital. The car driver wasn't badly hurt, and the man who was running along the expressway has been arrested. The road was closed for 3 hours in both directions because of the crash and has reopened. Another 3 people have been charged in connection with an attack in Tividale in which a 19-year-old woman was seriously burned. The woman's face and neck were burnt by strong cleaning fluid during an incident 2 weeks ago. It means 9 people have now been arrested in connection with the investigation. The police chief in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa is calling for calm after clashes left more than 30 people dead. The violence was between those supporting the Ukrainian government and others who were pro-Russian. The dead were inside a union building that was set on fire. Sarah Rainsford in eastern Ukraine told us what happened.
There were extremely serious clashes on the streets of Odessa, a city that hadn't seen any violence of this sort at all in previous weeks, and that those clashes then turned to tragedy as people who were inside this trade unions building in Odessa were attacked with bottle bombs, with Molotov cocktails, and the building caught fire.
For the first time in 20 years, Birmingham City could be relegated to the 3rd tier of English football after this weekend. They need to win at Bolton today and hope other results go their way to stay in the Championship. There'll be exclusive FM commentary here on BBC WM 95.6 from 12:15 with our build-up starting at midday. The Blues boss, Lee Clark, says they simply have to give themselves the best chance to make amends to their brilliant supporters.
Second to none, in my opinion, and I've been at some fantastic clubs and just had brilliant support, and I'm a supporter myself, so with me local team who, you know, but no one's better at what these fans have done under the circumstances.
4,000 Blues fans are travelling to that match. We spoke to some of them just before they set off from St Andrews this morning.
I think we're going to draw 1-1 and Leicester are going to win and we'll stay up on goal difference, hopefully. It's the only one I can think of. I can't think of any other scenario. It's got to be that or else that's it, we're down.
If our form continues like we've been playing away, then hopefully we will win. What I wanted to say, though, is just all the messages I've seen from fans and on Facebook is just win, lose or draw. We'll just keep supporting them.
The weather fine and dry with some sunshine today. The winds will stay light throughout and the temperature will reach 15 Celsius, 59 Fahrenheit. Tonight, a dry, mild and frost-free night. The minimum temperature overnight, 5 Celsius, 41 Fahrenheit. BBC WM.
The voice. The voice. The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
You should take in other religions and treat them as you would want to be treated yourself.
We are even more intelligent. They treated me with the utmost respect.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
Okay.
BBC WM 95.6.
Sorry, Nicole. No, I'm sorry. I was so nervous, Nicole. I was so nervous that I'd left a big gap last time that I was hovering. And, of course, I jumped in and crashed the end of your news. Did you miss anything?
Yes. Shall I say it?
Yeah, please do.
BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
Thank you very much. You're a legend. Thank you. I'm so sorry. What's happening to me today? I was so nervous. If you missed the top of the hour at 10 o'clock, I was miles away and there was a big gap, and then I thought, right, I'm not going to let that happen. And as Nicole went for a breath, boom, I hit the button. Oh, dear. Shocking. I blame the production staff. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. Only another 55 minutes of this nonsense to go, and then a professional broadcaster, a.k.a. Daz Hale, will be coming in doing a radio show that's about football as well. So that's going to be good for a lot of you. We've talked about a lot this morning. It's been an odd show. We've not really we've not had a big kind of story to sink our teeth in. So we've done this scattergun approach and thrown things at the wall and seen what sticks. Let's have a little recap of where we've been so far. We've talked about knife crime. How do we cut down knife crime? How do we cut down the amount of knives in schools? The only suggestion we've had two suggestions for that: more education and metal detectors. I don't think either of those are going to particularly work. 03453 009956. We've talked about football. I don't get it. I find it, and this has upset at least one of our listeners, I find it dull. Can you sell football to me, please? And we will be talking a football story in a little bit, so do with a bit of help there. We'll be talking about saying sorry. We've also talked about religion in schools and faith schools. I know there's a lot out there. Must be something you want to sink your teeth into. If you do, give me a call, 03453 009956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
Also spoke to a caller before the news who's got a 12-year-old son. I think it was Chris, wasn't it? He's got a 12-year-old son. He's given him a penknife. Has he done something hideously wrong there? Has he done something terribly bad, morally and legally? I don't know about the legal aspects, but as a dad of two boys, I think well done to him. Well done to him for doing something that's probably perceived as a little bit unpopular. Giving a 12-year-old lad a penknife? Great. Swiss Army knife. He's got the thing for getting stones out of horses' hooves. He's got a penknife. He's got a bottle opener. Well done. Great. Then send him off into the woods for a day. Let him play. Can't be anyone who disagrees with that, can there? Also, in the last hour of the show, bizarrely, we got a call from Michael in Germany, who listens to the show to improve his English. And I had a go at having a conversation with him in German. Well, Jill called in to correct me. Ich wohne in Slough. Das ist in Südostengland.
Oh, okay.
Ich bin 13 Jahre alt.
Uh-huh.
I was just laughing with the lady or the gentleman on the phone. You've just announced to the West Midlands that you're 13 years old.
Yes, that's when my German lesson stopped. That's as far as I got. Ich bin 13 Jahre alt.
Yeah.
I was never particularly good at... I don't live in Slough anymore either. I moved out of there when I was 11, so none of that information I gave you was actually factually correct. Adam's in Walsall. Morning, Adam.
Morning.
What would you like to say? It's an odd show today. I've got no idea why people are calling up, so let's hear what you want to say.
Well, I heard a bit earlier you did about a lady talking about religious schools and religion and being a part of the education.
Yes.
I attended a comprehensive school. When I first started the school, it was a comprehensive school. Whilst there, it got took over by a diocese and turned into a Church of England school.
Okay.
Now, I'd already chosen my subjects for GCSE, RE not being one of them. As far as I was concerned, up to year 9, when you're 13, you talk about the different religions. To me, I'm not a religious person. I didn't want a plan for a career in religion, so I didn't want to take RE any further. But once the school changed to a C of E school, 1 hour a week of my lesson plan included RE. Now, when I questioned this is something that the governors and the diocese had decided to put on. I don't know what it is now, but this was in the late 90s. That they decided to put in that all children should be taught GCSE and get half a GCSE level of RE. Well, long story short, there was 1 hour a week at school that I didn't attend school. I used to skip the class. I didn't see the point of it. I know enough that there's the different religions out there. I know enough to respect the different religions. So why should it be forced upon me because they decide to change what type of school it is?
Did you not think that one of the benefits of religious education... I've got no idea what benefit half a GCSE is, but did you not think that one of the benefits of religious education is we get to learn how other people think and why other people act in certain ways? And there are lots of different religions all over the country, particularly in Birmingham. Wouldn't it be nice to know a bit more about why they do things that we might think are a bit odd?
Well, the thing is, I'd learned about the basics because you talked about religion from when you start school, and I'd learned the basics. I knew I was a Catholic, I wasn't practising. I knew a couple of my friends were Muslims and Sikhs. I went to a school that was a multi-ethnic school. There was no particular religion that was outweighed the other. So I knew what religions my friends were. Where I work now, I know what religion my colleagues are because I've got colleagues who are different religions as well. To me, why couldn't I have used that hour to brush up on something that I was weak on, say physics and science. Me and physics with science never really got on very well.
What did you like at school, for goodness sakes, Adam? It sounds like you're bunking off all the time.
I wasn't bunking off all the time, not at all. PE I excelled at, geography, English, mathematics. I excelled at all those. It was just that I kind of lost interest when this happened, and then because we was in a music class where there was only 8 of us, they kind of like, because there was only 8 of us that chose to take music, it tended to be that they'd focused on the people in the class that were outstanding at music, if you understand.
So you felt a bit left out. Adam, I've got to move on. Sorry, because I've got to get a guest on, but I appreciate your point. You didn't think religious education was for you, and you felt resentful that it had been forced on you. 03453 009956. Does saying sorry make everything okay? Jeremy Clarkson's been in the paper this week, the news this week, I'm not even going to say allegedly using the N-word. I've seen the clip. He does. Have you seen the clip? Oh. Have you not seen the clip? Well, he said sorry reluctantly. Reluctantly, he's done an apology. Does that make it different? Does it? Max Clifford has spent his first night in prison after being given an 8-year sentence for a series of sex offences between 1977 and 1984. The judge told Clifford that he thought he was untouchable. Clifford repeatedly shook his head as the judge made his comments to a packed courtroom, and later his solicitor said he may launch an appeal. If you want to read the judge's comments, this closing summary, it's online. It's pretty grim reading. It's not for the faint-hearted. Well, if Clifford had been more apologetic, humble, if he'd said sorry, would that have made a difference? Joined now by Neil Wallace, former executive editor of the News of the World, now a media commentator. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning.
What did you think of the way Clifford behaved in and out of court? There's that famous clip of him, of course, of him sneaking up behind a Sky reporter and copying him.
I was constantly surprised by his behaviour during the trial, but I could understand from sort of Max's twisted sense of himself that Max was basically trying to play the PR card in the main. However, I have to say that I was genuinely amazed at his behaviour when he was convicted, and then when he turned up the sentence. It was absolutely certain to enrage the judge, and it completely stunned me, I have to say.
I've met Clifford a few times. I always thought he was, arrogant, I suppose, and humility doesn't seem to be one of his character traits.
Yes, your understatement there.
I'm being polite, yes.
On. Yes, Max Clifford was a guy who would have passed positive for the psychopath test. He only had one consideration, and that was what was good for Max Clifford, and he operated on that entirely, and everybody else existed solely to enable Max to have whatever Max wanted.
If he'd have said sorry in court, either during the trial or at the sentencing, and if he'd said it and it had come across as being a humble, humiliating sorry, do you think, A, the judge would have perhaps been slightly more lenient, and B, the British public would have been more lenient?
There's actually two answers to your question. One, it is actually written into the sentencing guidelines that a judge has to abide by how the defendant has behaved and acted, and remorse is actually a mitigating factor.
I was unaware of that. That's interesting.
No, that's actually, they have a number of things they have to tick off and take into consideration, and remorse is actually one of those factors. And that's why the judge actually made a point of saying and talking about Clifford's attitude and absolute lack of remorse. And that is quite interesting. As soon as I saw his behaviour, Clifford's behaviour, when he came out after conviction, when he stood there and posed, I thought to myself, that is not going to play well with the judge. That will be a real problem for you. But the problem with Max, going back to your earlier comment about arrogance, he was warned about that by his lawyers. But he couldn't resist because Max always knew better. Going on to the second part of your question, I think you're right. I think that his behaviour, I mean, these are pretty dreadful charges anyway, but his behaviour and his attitude will have even more offended the British public. That in the main, Max had very carefully cultivated this persona of being a cuddly uncle. You know, nice Mr. Max, you know, the guy who claimed, it was a complete lie, of course, but he claimed that he kept more stories out of the papers than he put in them. You know, he was always careful to appear on camera and on the radio, etc., as a very avuncular. He wasn't anything like that in real life. He was a very nasty piece of work, is the truth.
And finally, Neil, he has, you know, worked and engineered a lot of celebrities' careers and saved them. Is he going to write a kiss and tell? Is it all going to come out in a book, do you think?
I think Max is absolutely incapable of not writing a book. He you know, tonight will be night and tomorrow will be day. That's as sure as I can tell you that Max will write a book. He will absolutely do so.
There must be a lot of celebrities quaking in their boots right now.
Well, according to Max, there are. Whether or not that's completely true, I was never convinced. But, you know, the law of libel will apply to his book just as much as it will apply to tomorrow's Sunday Times.
Neil, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on at short notice. Neil Wallace, former executive editor of the News of the World, now media commentator, 03453 009956. This is BBC WM 95.6. It's 11:16. Let's get the travel with Liz.
Thank you, Ian. As you head to the M5 going south, we're getting reports of a lane closed on the entry slip road at Junction 5 for Droitwich. A vehicle has broken down. Police, we understand, on the way to the scene. Round Droitwich is looking rather congested anyway. Victoria Square is closed in the town because of some carriageway repairs going on today at St Andrews Road. In Halesowen, it's struggling on the A458 as you head around Long Lane. You'll find a bit of congestion around Spitfire Island as you make your way along the A452 as well, but it's eased off the moment in Selly Oak on the A38 towards Priory Road, and around Pershaw Road in Edgbaston is looking much better. Your match day travel sees Aston Villa fans at home this afternoon at Villa Park. Wolverhampton Wanderers and Walsall also at home, so all the match day restrictions will be coming into force in the next couple of hours. If you can update us, 08453 002288.
The match is over. Birmingham City's future in the Championship is hanging by a thread. They will go into the final day on Saturday lunchtime at Bolton, needing to get a better result than Doncaster Rovers.
The voice of Birmingham in the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
Daz Hale is on today at midday. We'll get him in before midday. We'll try and get him to sell football to me. I don't get football. I've been chastised already by one of the callers for saying I thought it was dull. He said I should keep my views to myself. A radio presenter keeping their views to themselves? It's a possibility. Not on this show. I'm not in any way saying it to demean the great work that BBC WM 95.6 do. It does have fantastic football coverage. And it's got fantastic sports presenters. And that's great. And I'm so glad this isn't a sports show. Because I can't do it. I don't get it. I don't buy into it. 03453 009956. Sell football to me. You can phone up and have a go at me for not liking it if you want. It seems a little bit odd. It seems odd. I would never have a go at you for liking a dull sport. But you can have a go if you want. What I'd rather you did, though, is phone up and try and sell it to me. Tell me what I'm missing. Try and convince me. What do you get from football that I'm not getting in my life? 03453 009956. Mo's in Tamworth. Morning, Mo.
Good morning, Ian.
Are you a football fan, my dear?
No.
Oh.
No, I hate it, and I am with people like yourself that don't. I don't want it in my life.
I was told by a caller that everybody who listens to this station likes football.
Well, that's silly, isn't it?
It
How
is
does
silly.
this person know that?
Yes.
What's he got? A crystal ball? What's he got? Stupid thing to say.
Stupid, silly thing. Mo?
Yeah?
I feel that we've kind of bonded over the past few months. You're a regular caller. Sometimes you call at the start of the show. Sometimes you call towards the end. Sometimes you criticise and sometimes you embrace. Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. Are you beautiful?
No.
Oh.
I'm okay looking, but...
Can we do the beautiful test?
Yeah.
Get your Peter Pointer finger, stick it up in front of your face.
Which is my Peter Pointer
Well,
finger?
Peter Pointer, the one. What? Use the finger you point with.
My forefinger.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Not the bird. The okay, that's Peter Pointer. Get the tip of it and put it on your nose.
Mm-hmm.
Then get the bottom of it and put it on your chin.
Yes.
Does the finger touch your lips?
Yes.
You're beautiful.
Thank you, Ian.
Well, that's according to something that was in the paper. But Mo, you are officially beautiful. If your finger touches your lips while it's on your face, then you're beautiful.
Well, James Blunt must have written that song for me then.
It's unlikely. But no, it's good to know. I was worried that all my listeners were munters. At least we got one who's a corker, and that's you, Mo. So that makes it worthwhile.
Okay.
You've called in on quite a serious thing. You want to talk about Max Clifford, don't you?
I do.
Go on.
I first of all, I want to endorse your previous caller on virtually everything he said. But what my main thing I want to say, Ian, is I want to salute every female that came forward and put that man where he belongs. He can't hurt any more people. He can't humiliate any more people, females I'm talking about, and he can't belittle them and call them liars. And for him not to have apologised, his kind, and I have to say that because I've met them before, his kind don't apologise because, first of all, Ian, I'm sure you know this, before people apologise, they have to feel and know remorse.
Yes.
He has showed nothing like that whatsoever. So may he rot where he belongs.
The behaviour of him I found incredible. Did you see that footage of him going up behind that Sky reporter? If those who have not seen it, the Sky reporter's outside the court, he's doing a report, and Clifford kind of comes up behind him and starts copying his actions. It's the weirdest thing.
Because that's his arrogance, that's his front, isn't it? It makes him... He wants the attention. He wants to take the attention away from the guy there and put it on him, so we're all looking at him. And I think he thinks he's entertaining.
I've really struggled with this Clifford case to get my head around it. I've met him a couple of times. I've spoken to him on the phone a few times. I thought he was weird. I thought he was arrogant, but I didn't think he was a pervert. You know, I thought he was. I thought he was an interesting character, and it's really disappointed me on so many levels. Yeah. And I can't quite work out why I feel so disappointed that he has been found a convicted pervert and sex offender. But it just, I don't know. I just feel cheated a bit, Mo.
I think you do, though, Ian, when you find it. When you haven't thought or suspected anyone would stoop that low, and then you find out just how low they will stoop, then I think that's perfectly normal for you to feel that way.
If he'd have said sorry, would you think any differently of him?
It would depend how it was said and the words that he used and the look on his face. Yes, I mean, we all have to take on board anyone's remorse and then apology for it. We do have to do that. But it's up to us individuals to see whether we accept it and feel that person means it.
Oh, yeah, and that's down to the person who's sorry is being said to as to whether they decide to accept it or not.
Yeah.
Maybe... I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. Maybe it's that to be a sexual criminal, you have to have a certain kind of arrogance and a blinkered view about it. I'm thinking back to Stuart Hall. When Stuart Hall was convicted, he never apologised. In fact, I seem to remember in the day he was sentenced, him being particularly rude about the women that had stepped up to prosecute him.
Yeah, because these are men that have been in, prominence and high positions, and they've had flunkies around them most of the time, and it gives them a cocoon feeling of power. And they probably treat men badly as well, but obviously if they are not normal, you know the word I'm saying, to females, then they will take that arrogance and interest further and to humiliate them like he has done on top of the crimes he's committed against them is really, I suppose, unforgivable.
Mo?
Yeah?
This is for you.
You're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. It's true.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Mo. Ta-ta. 03453 009956 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call on that. There's just something about the Max Clifford case that disappoints me. The sexual crimes to one side. I mean, obviously what he has done, it's horrible. You know, you read the judge's summing up. It's thoroughly unpleasant. Nasty piece of work. Do I feel disappointed because I'd met him a few times and thought he was a lovable rogue? Is that it? Am I going to miss his presence popping up defending Kerry Katona and the like? Do you know what? Yeah, I probably will. And I just think his behaviour, as it was obvious he was going to be sentenced when he got found guilty, his behaviour's just, it's nuts, isn't it? It's really, really weird. 03453 009956. Does saying sorry make things better? Does it make things different? And if someone said sorry to you, well, how have you reacted? Has it changed the way things are? One of the things I've learned as I've got older is to say sorry and to mean it. Is to realise when I've been in a situation where I have been wrong, and then go back to that person and say, do you know what, I'm sorry, I was out of order because of this, this and this. 03453 009956.
Darlaston,
Edgbaston,
Erdington,
Paisley,
Cornwall Wood, have your say across the West Midlands.
BBC WM
95.6.
So, Birmingham City could... football story, guys, football story, so just bear with me. Birmingham City could end up in League One after this weekend. They need to beat Bolton and then hope that other results go their way to stay in the Championship. Ellis Cashmore is a Professor of Culture, Media and Sport at Staffordshire University and joins me now. Morning, Ellis.
Hello, Ian.
How does this work? What do Birmingham City specifically need to happen for them to kind of do all right?
Well, they've lost control of their own destiny, basically. So they have to hope and pray that Doncaster either lose and they win or draw, or Doncaster draw and they win. So they have to beat whatever Doncaster do, essentially. And then just hope and pray that that the gods are with them. But it isn't looking good, Ian. Let's put it that way.
I've been saying all morning, Ellis, I don't get football. I've really tried. When I was younger, I tried because I felt left out. I find it dull.
Do you? Well, you're in a very small minority.
Am I in a minority?
You are, because, I mean, globally you are, I guess, because, you know, this is the most popular game in the world, bar none. There isn't any other game that comes close to football when it comes to arousing passions, stirring people's emotions, getting them to spend money. And, of course, we do spend an awful lot of our expendable income on football nowadays. You know, it's a pretty expensive game to follow. And a fair few people will be going over to Brazil for the World Cup in a few weeks' time. So I think you are in a minority when you think about just how colossal football has become. And people often say to me, well, it used to be big in the 1950s and at early parts of the 20th century. No, it was never as big as it is today. I mean, if you imagine the media spend billions on transmitting football games, not just in this country, but practically every spot on the planet. I don't care where you go in the world, you will never be far away from a plasma TV screen that's showing a Premier League game.
But that's the business side of it, and it is, of course, huge financial business. But I just don't get the passion. Is it a tribal thing? Are we admiring the skills? What are we supposed to be getting from it?
It's not disconnected, though, Ian, because the reason why it is such big business is exactly because we are so emotionally engaged with the sport. I say we, you know, I'm talking about not you and perhaps not me for that matter, because I tend to look at these things a bit more analytically nowadays. But I have to try to understand what makes a sport, which basically, when you pare it down to the bare bones, is 11 grown men trying to advance a football against another equally mature men who are trying to defend their goal and advance the ball in the opposite direction. It is purposeless when you think about it. It's a most futile activity. It it just is not going to deliver any good to the world at all. It's like a kid's game that's just been inflated, exaggerated, so much so, but it mesmerizes us. And you have to say, well, it can't be just that. And the answer is that it isn't just that. You have to look at the history of football. You understand that it was originally a game that was played in a locality, and people took great civic pride. They still do, but I think they took more intense civic pride back then. I'm talking about most of the 20th century for that matter, because it was your team. Nowadays, I think it's slightly different, and we're talking to people in the West Midlands nowadays, and a fair few number of them will be Chelsea fans, Manchester City fans, United fans. So they pick their teams, they select more. But I think for the most part of the history of football, people didn't really have a say. They just grew up in a locality, in a particular community, where it was just assumed that they would be a Villa fan or a Baggers fan.
I can almost understand it. Back then, when football players were real people and you supported your local team, and there was a chance that you might see the goalkeeper down your shops,
in the pub after the game.
Or in the pub after the game. And now it's not. Now it's a team that's on the other side of the country quite often. It's players that are from all over the world. It's people who are earning £500,000 a week in some of the bigger games. There is no or very little personal connection with that, isn't there?
It's been replaced by a kind of a remote connection, because I think that although that the ties, the immediate ties to the local community have in many cases been severed, they've been replaced by TV. Because we can, or our computers in many cases, because we can go anywhere in the world and see our team. I mean, I know legally you can't, but where there's a will, there's a way, and people always find a way of following their local team. I mean, I don't know the ways they do it, but they're able to on their smartphones or on their computers, wherever they go. And I think that what's happened over the years, we as just a population, a generation of people, have learned to substitute our immediate physical contact with people by remote contacts. We do it all the time. We're doing it now. I'm talking to you via Skype as if I'm sitting in the same room as you. We tweet. We use other social media. We use our mobile phones. We communicate with people differently nowadays. And I think that we also communicate with football in a different way than we did 20 years ago, as recently as that. So I think we have to understand that the passions haven't necessarily been displaced by the media, they've just been changed.
I have given it a chance. I've been to a football match. I went to Luton.
Only one?
I've been to only one. It was Luton versus Millwall.
Okay.
At home to Luton. Oh, it was horrible. It was cold. It was damp. There was a real horrible tension there. There was a little bit of racism there.
The racism we can do without.
Yes, please.
The coldness, the roughness, and the fact that you were asked, shall we say, to put up with challenging conditions.
Yes,
that's part of being a fan. That's the whole experience.
Okay.
If you were able to watch it in comfort, as for example, and I hope I'm not going to upset any American fans now, but I used to live in the United States and I follow National Football League, American football also. So I used to go to the games over there and you sit in comfort and often behind, glass panels or Perspex panels. It's enjoyable just the same. But I think that part of the experience of being a football fan is being hardy. You have to be tough enough to face these challenging elements. And let's face it, as you said yourself, if you go to see a game over here in, say, late December, early January, February, it's not exactly a comfortable experience. But if you don't do it, you're not a fan.
Ellis, fascinating, thank you. I'm not hardy in the slightest. I'm not cut out for that life. Ellis Cashmore, Professor of Culture, Media and Sport at Staffordshire University. How do you cope with the pressure during a match? How do you do it? Is it a cup of Bovril and a meat pie? Does that still happen? It was just that this Luton match, it was like a tiny shed. It was cold, it was wet, there was casual racism going on. There's a real tension. But there's a history between those two clubs, apparently. But there was a tension in the air that you could actually feel. Very unpleasant. 03453 009956. You've got 25 minutes to try and sell football to me. Simon's in Northfield. Morning, Simon.
Hello.
Hello, Simon. What would you like to say?
Yeah, Max Clifford case. I was fair enough. One of the girls is 14 or 15, but the others were 17. I mean, they knew what the score was. Why are people going on some? I mean, the evidence is fairly flimsy. They don't even have to really produce proper evidence anymore. I think he's been treated pretty badly. They would just have the money, the girls.
You think Max Clifford was treated pretty badly?
On the whole, apart from the one charge, the rest of it, the women just wanted money.
Can I read you some of the judges summing up?
Yeah.
And see if you think this. No, I'm not going to be too graphic. I'm going to, bearing in mind we have young ears. Okay, so he. Let's go. Okay, so. You met a 15-year-old girl on holiday. You told her and her family she was pretty. You could help her get promotional work. You spoke to her on the telephone pretending to be someone called Terry Miller. This is all addressed to Max Clifford. You made her repeat dirty words which you said Max Clifford would like to hear.
Well, that case is...
He then goes on to seriously sexually assault her and get her to perform sex acts on a friend of his. Is that okay? Do you think he was treated lightly because of that?
No, well, that case is answerable to that case, but the others... One was a dancer, and she was about 18.
So that makes it... Oh, OK, sorry. 18-year-old dancers, it's OK to lie and manipulate and sexually prey on. That's OK, is it?
Lying and manipulating to people is not a crime. The
20-year-old victim... The 20-year-old victim approached you to assist her with her acting career as a retired gymnast. You told her you could get her a part in a Charles Bronson film. You telephoned her pretending to be Terry Denton. You told her that Max Clifford thought she was lovely and fancied her, and if she played her cards right, she'll become famous. You took her to the pictures and tried to persuade her to put her legs apart for the camera. You lunged... When you reappeared, you lunged towards her and tried to kiss her. When she resisted, you pushed her down on the sofa. She was frightened and was screaming for you to leave her alone.
Yeah, but all of that is not a crime.
Yeah, it is, mate. It is. Yeah, that is a crime.
That
is a crime to push someone down and try and kiss them when they are screaming at you to get off of them.
Yeah, but nobody else was there, was there? So how can they prove it? It's just a witch hunt after Jimmy Savile and the Times we live in, women's rights and all that. They don't actually have to produce any evidence.
17-year-old. You told her to take off your dress because you needed to see her figure. You told her that she excited you. I'm changing the language here. And your hands moved over her body, chest, and hips.
Is there any proof of that?
She put her dress on while she took a call from your wife. He then did something to himself.
Is there any proof of that?
Well, the thing is, you have these women.
They've reinvented the law.
Sorry?
They have reinvented the law to try and prove these cases.
No, they haven't, mate. What they've done is they've proved that the law works when vulnerable women are abused by men in power who think it's acceptable to get sexual favours from people by lying to them.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
And they don't even have to prove it.
Well, it's been proved. It's gone through the British legal system, and it was a jury, wasn't it? Of course, it was a jury found him guilty. Now, what there would have been, Simon, is there would have been similar details with each story that they would have been able to go, well, this person said this person said this person said this. For example, maybe, I don't know the ins and outs, maybe he had a mole on a certain part of his body that you would only be able to know if you've been involved in a sexual contact with that person. They all spotted that, and that would imply there was some element of truth.
Yeah,
why are you reluctant, Simon, to believe the victims?
Because not only this, but in other areas of law, the state no longer has to prove that a person actually committed a crime.
Well, yeah, of course.
It's across the board.
Yeah, you have to prove that a crime was committed. And there is, if I'm reading here, point 32, your behaviour is reflected in count 10. So basically, there is identical behaviour that all of these women have individually and independently stated, which when you put together is evidence that he did those things. I mean, it goes on and on and on. There are 9 pages of this stuff, and it is filth. It is disgusting what He did. And, I 8 years, I've served 4 of those years. That sounds fair enough to me, Simon. To be honest, it sounds a little bit lenient.
The way things are now, they've arranged the law in that way where they can bring pretty mediocre charges and circumstantial evidence against people and put it all together and say that someone committed a very bad crime.
What do you think should have happened? What do you think should have happened to Max Clifford then? A man who's been found guilty of several sexual offences and rape.
If there was any hard evidence, I mean, I'm not saying this to defend him, but if there was any actual
Simon,
evidence.
let's move this slightly. Let's move this away from Max Clifford for a second and go into the realm of fantasy. Right.
It's not fantasy because it's happening in other areas of law.
Okay, let's go into the realms. Let's go into a story that is not in any way connected with Max Clifford. I need to make that clear before we go into this. Let's say a 14-year-old girl is raped, right? But she has a bath. She doesn't go to the police for a couple of months. All physical evidence of that has gone.
Yeah.
We don't look into it. We don't charge the person that's being accused. We don't take that any further. Is that what you're saying?
You do look into it, but
because there's no bruising, there is no physical evidence of what actually happened, we can't do anything about it.
Well, you want to charge a man without evidence that's
I would like to, and I think that the laws on this are wrong. I suspect that maybe the gentleman should be granted anonymity. But yeah, if a 14-year-old girl goes to the police and says, I've been raped, I would like the police to go and speak to that person. And if they feel there is enough to go on to arrest them, yes, I would like that to happen. And I'm glad that does happen.
But you could be charged with something and someone could just make it up. That's the point.
Yeah, I could be.
But it's not innocence before being proved guilty.
I do think some changes should be made. I think that anonymity should be granted. But yes, I could be accused of rape and arrested. Yes, I could be.
You've been brainwashed then.
No, I've not been brainwashed, mate. I want victims of sexual assault to be able to get justice, whether it was 2 weeks ago or whether it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, but it's not justice, is it?
Well, it is justice if the person has been found guilty and has been sentenced. That is justice.
What I said is they've rearranged the law nowadays to swear the state doesn't have to prove that he'd done it. It has to be...
They've proved that he'd done it, Simon.
No.
They've
not proper
proved
proof.
it. What proof do you want? Do you want a video of it? Do you want a photograph? Do you want 5 other men to have been there and seen it? What proof do you want?
Proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Well, what would that be? Give me an example of that, Simon.
The usual things, forensic evidence...
it happened 30 years ago.
Exactly, so you can't prove it.
So, if someone rapes someone... If someone... OK, I tell you what. So Gordon wants to come in. Gordon, have a word with Simon.
Good morning, Simon.
Hello.
What are you going on about? This man abused women.
You don't want...
Hang on. He was accused of abusing women, to which he was found guilty, and he was given a maximum of 8 years. In my opinion, he should have got a damn sight longer. Just because a man who has money and is a very well-known personality, he deserves what he got. And I hope he gets a damn good origin in the nick as well.
Simon?
Well, he didn't actually... What I'm point of making is there wasn't actual proof.
There was proof, Simon.
Only with one. Well, not even with one, actually.
What person would turn around and say, I've got nothing to apologise for? How disgusting is that? I'm sorry, Simon. I'm not picking at you personally, but to me, in my opinion, you're out of order, mate. Goodbye.
But on the other side of the case, which is quite relevant, because, as I say, in all the law these days, workplace bullying, if you're an employer, the person who you employ can take it to court without having to prove that you actually sacked them wrongly and things like that. There's loads of areas of law what would affect all of us, and the government are arranging the law nowadays where they don't have to properly prove.
No, but Gordon, Simon, you're missing the point. I don't know why. They proved it. They proved beyond a reasonable doubt. They proved beyond reasonable doubt that Max Clifford had committed these sexual offences. There are no videos of it. There are no photographs of it. There is no DNA evidence. But they proved beyond reasonable doubt that he committed them.
Several similar stories, which were stories from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just an overhang from Jimmy Savile.
But no, it's one of the great, beautiful side effects of Jimmy Savile that Max Clifford has gone to prison, that Stuart Hall has gone to prison. That's one of the good things that came out of Jimmy Savile, because women, victims, people who were children or teenagers, vulnerable people, felt empowered enough to come forward and say, actually, that man did this to me.
Yeah, but 7 of the 8 cases against him, they were 20 years old, 18 years old.
So 18-year-old women can't be raped then?
They weren't raped, and there was no proof. That's the whole point.
But no, Simon, they were abused. One of the incidences, again, I'm not going to go through the details, it's horrific. One of the incidences, I think the 18-year-old woman, what Clifford did to her would now be classified as rape.
Well, no one else was there. It's her word against his. And they decide to take her word.
And you're deciding to take his?
No, I'm just saying that I'm not actually taking his word.
Simon, stay there, because this is fascinating, and I know a couple of people want to talk to you. 03453 009956. I've got to go to the travel. Stay there, Simon. Oh, it's BBC WM 95.6. Now the show warms up, the last 15 minutes. Let's get the travel with Liz.
Thank you very much, Ian. As you head to the M6 going south, there's reportedly a lane out on the entry slip road. The vehicle has broken down at junction 5. It was originally thought to be on the M5 itself, but it is on the M6 around Castle Bromwich at the A452. Although traffic seems to be coping okay, it is slow going as you head north on the M6 between 11 and 13. This is in the roadworks. The Cannock exit to the Stafford turn, the A449. In Droitwich is a little bit congested as we head on into the lunch hour. Victoria Square remains shut for repairs at St Andrews Road. It's looking a bit better around Hales Owen on the A458 at the Long Lane turn, the A4034. Your match day travel sees home games this afternoon for Aston Villa, Wolverhampton and Walsall. So all around the grounds of the 3 o'clock kickoffs. From about 1 o'clock you'll find the match day restrictions coming into force. Expect delays around the NIA in the centre of Birmingham as well because of the National Karate Championships, which continue until 8 o'clock this evening. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
Ian Lee
On BBC WM
95.6. The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Now the show warms up. After a lacklustre couple of hours, it kicks off. We're talking about Max Clifford. And Simon from Northfield fears that Max Clifford has been treated unfairly as there is no evidence about the crimes he's been convicted of. It happened 30 years ago. There's no evidence. That's pretty much what you're saying, isn't it, Simon?
Yes.
OK. Mark's in Castle Bromwich. Mark, what would you like to say?
Well, start off straight away, Ian, with the fact of I'm a long-time listener. And how can you work this out? Can you hear what I'm saying so he can answer back to me?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, he's there. Simon's there, Mark. Go on, speak to him.
What I'm saying is, if you go into a court and you're in a court and you're found guilty by reasonable doubt means you are guilty. If you've got a majority of a 10-2 and you've got somebody that's sitting there now saying that because there's no video footage or no camera footage, it's never happened, does that mean if a member of your family was assaulted in the street and there was no video footage, it never happened?
You would have to have forensic evidence, maybe a witness.
No, so let's say, let's get it right. Let's say if a member of your family got, I seriously, mate, I wish it never happened here. But if a member of your family is walking down the street now, they was assaulted, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no CCTV evidence, there is no DNA evidence, the man was wearing gloves. Because you can't prove it happened, does that mean it never happened?
Well, if the police couldn't arrest the person at the time, and there was no witnesses, then the case is in a balance where you can't convict a person.
But it's in the balance of that, so then it goes to a jury, and you get 10 members of a jury. So if you're found guilty of even 10-8, it's still a majority verdict, which means there is no reasonable doubt. Which means if there's no reasonable doubt, you're guilty. Can you explain how that one works then?
I don't think that's
you're only found guilty. No, you are only found guilty if there is no reasonable doubt. If there's reasonable doubt, you cannot be guilty. If they can doubt it in any way, but if a jury of 12 people can't find any kind of doubt, how can it be the way you're explaining it?
Mark, let Simon answer. Go on, Simon.
The law has been changed where you don't have to have reasonable doubt. It can be a lesser balance. You know, it can just be circumstantial evidence.
Under what legislation was the law changed to circumstantial evidence? Sorry. What legislation is that under? Because circumstantial evidence doesn't work in a police station, so it's not going to work in a court.
I'm not sure of the actual name of it, but it's been done in recent years, and it applies over many areas of law.
No, but
not just sexual cases.
It's not so much sexual cases. If you go to a case that comes to a jury, and you've got 12 men and women that are sitting there, or maybe even 10, and 8 out of 10 find it.
They've been directed. They've been directed.
Do you know what? No, Simon. It's.
No, this one about who directed them.
Hang on. This is Simon. This is an irrelevant argument anyway. Max Clifford has been found guilty beyond reasonable doubt.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Under the new areas of law where they say you don't have to have strong evidence.
Yeah.
So when did these areas of laws come in, and under what legislation are they? Because I've never heard a law that stands like that.
I don't know the name of it, but it's in law now.
Well, you're coming on the radio, you're stating a legislation and a law that I reckon 95% of WM listeners don't even know exists.
Exactly. That's why I'm trying to highlight it to people.
All right, Mark. Mark, listen. Thank you very much. Well, let's go to Susan in Drayton Bassett. Morning, Susan.
Good morning.
What do you think about what Simon is saying, that Max Clifford has been treated unfairly?
Well, there's two aspects of this. The first, I've never heard any male have such disrespect for a female, some of the comments that he's been making. And the other thing is, I would think the majority of people would be pleased if there has actually been that legislation brought in. And I would like to ask Simon why he objects to it so much. Is he hiding something?
The reason why I object to it is because, as I've said, it's across many areas of law,
but
many
whatever
areas
it's
of our
across,
life.
Simon, if it's been brought into law and someone has committed a crime, it doesn't matter how long ago it was, that crime has been committed, and that person who's committed the crime should be punished. And I would like to know why you are objecting to it so much.
Because the state, the government...
Simon, let me interrupt. I think what Susan is trying to ask, and I will ask the direct question, has this ever affected you personally in the past?
No.
OK, we got that. Thank you. Is that, I think that's what you were trying to ask, wasn't it, Susan?
Yeah.
OK, well, he said no, and that's great.
What I don't understand is why anybody objects to a person being punished that's committed a crime, whether it be Max Clifford or Joe Bloggs down the road. That's what I don't understand. And I also have taken objection to some of the comments he's made, especially when he said, oh, well, she was 18, so if she's 18, is it okay for somebody to do those dreadful things? Have you any idea what those girls have gone through and what it takes for a woman to stand up in court and tell people that someone has violated them?
It could have happened, but also she could just have been after money, and the point is, she didn't have to prove it.
I can't think of any female that would stand up and say she's been violated and open themselves up to criticism that you obviously are directing at them. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, it's happened loads of times before. Many times before in different places in court.
Name me when it happened.
I haven't got any names to hand.
No, because you don't know. You're just assuming.
Susan, listen, thank you very much. And of course, Simon, there are miscarriages of justice where people who are innocent of crimes get found out. It gets found out at some point later on that they didn't do anything and they'd served time in prison. And it's always tragic when that happens. But those are very, very rare. And surely it's better that I don't understand the time thing. Why, if this happened 30 years ago, why you still have a problem with that? What's the time limit in your book, Simon, where if a rape happens, how long after should we lose interest in it as a society?
It's not about losing interest.
Six months, a year, 5 years? At what point do you go, actually, that was too long ago in the too far in the past, we shouldn't look at this?
What about if someone came and accused your granddad or your dad of raping somebody?
Yeah.
And it never happened, but because it was 30 years ago, and because people are angry about Jimmy Savile, that he could be sent to prison when there's no evidence. But
hang on, okay, yes, right. But
then he would be under these laws. He would be sent to prison.
No, he wouldn't be sent to prison. He would go to. Well, first of all, my dad's dead, so it would be unlikely he'd be sent to prison. But he would. He would go to court, and the evidence would be presented, and the judgment would be made.
Yeah, but they don't have to have any. If you're a workplace boss.
Well, Simon, what courts are you going to where you don't need to have evidence?
If you're a workplace boss, and someone says that you were forcing them. You wanted them to work. Say you want to work 60 hours a week.
Yes.
Work a week.
Yes.
State can prevent you from working 60 hours of work a week.
Simon, I'm going to go because we're going off on a complete tangent. We've gone from Max Clifford to 0-hour contracts and 60 hours. I don't know what was going on there. Simon, thank you. Ah, dearie me. Right, now, Richard Wilford, Mike Taylor, they're at Bolton for the big match against Birmingham City. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Ian.
Oh, gosh, it's very noisy, isn't it?
Well, it will be. We're about to kick off in about 20 minutes' time.
This is another...
This is a football ground here. Let me explain it to you. What happens is 15 or 20,000 people come to a game and they make quite a lot of noise and they pay for the right to do it.
Tell them to shut up a bit. I'm trying to talk to you. Now, listen, I've been saying all morning, gentlemen, I don't get football, but I know it's a very, very big day for Birmingham City. Explain it to me in terms of an idiot, please.
OK, well, we started on the right foot then. No.
You really did, honestly, totally.
What it is, they're in the relegation zone. It's the final day of the season. They're 1 point behind Doncaster. Doncaster go to Leicester today. If Birmingham City get a better result here than Doncaster get at Leicester, then they will stay up. If they win today, they could send Millwall or Blackpool down. What makes it all the more dramatic is almost a business thing rather than a football thing, in that this club needs taking over. It needs taking over in a hurry. If they stay in the Championship, there's a better chance of that happening quickly. If they go down to League One, the value of the club will plummet, and that makes the future even more uncertain than it is now. And that would be a brief synopsis of where we start at 12 o'clock.
OK, so and the match kicks off in about 20 minutes' time. What do you think the chances are for Birmingham?
Well, they've played better away from home this season than at home, where they've had a dreadful record, not won since October, so that in itself, the fact they're not at home, probably helps a bit. They have a chance, but they have been so brittle recently that if they fall behind in this match, they will find it extremely difficult. They are going to be roared on by nearly 4,000 Birmingham fans, many of whom are apparently here dressed in a Peaky Blinders theme.
Oh, Peaky Blinders, of course, very popular. Gentlemen, I shall let you go. Enjoy your Bovril and your hot pies. I've literally no idea. But Richard and Mike do have an idea. Thank God they're doing that. That's Richard Wilford, Mike Taylor at Bolton for the big match against Birmingham City. Keep listening to BBC WM 95.6 throughout the day for all of the football news, and fingers crossed that your team does, goals. Fingers crossed your team does goals. How's about that? Well, there we go. We kind of. It's been an odd show. Well done, producer Joe, for managing to gather bits and pieces together. It's been an odd show today, and typical. It's not been a bad show, but it really kicked off in the last 25 minutes with Simon calling in. Maybe who knows? Who knows? If you want to listen again, you can. You can go to the BBC iPlayer. I know, very fancy. It's computers and stuff, and you can go on there and you can have a little listen. And one thing I don't stress this enough, and I keep meaning this. If you have a story that you think we should be doing on the show, if you think we've missed something or something's happening in your area or there's something you think we should cover, do send me an email. I look at all the emails. I don't always get a chance to reply to them, but I do read them all. Iain.lee, IAIN.LEE at bbc.co.uk. Just send me a little email with what you think we should be doing. A couple of texts in regards to Simon, who had sympathy for Max Clifford. Polly in Erdington says Simon is obviously a legal expert. Mohammed in Edgbaston. Is that guy Simon for real? Has he got a daughter, a sister, a mum? Does he live on our planet? Andy in Kings Norton. Get a plate. What does this say? Get a plate, throw it on the floor. OK, done. Did it break? Yes. Now say sorry to it. Sorry. Did it go back to how it was before? No. Do you understand? Saying sorry will change nothing. Dave says, with three words you mentioned the British legal system, says it all really. It is not faultless. Why didn't these women come forward 30 years ago? In no way, shape or form do I like Max Clifford. However, something is not right. It takes 30 years to come forward. We could spend ages talking about how victims of sexual abuse feel subjugated and subservient, but we haven't got time. Thanks very much for all your calls. I'm back next week, Saturday at 9.
With full commentary of every Warwickshire cricket game this summer, exclusively online, bbc.co.uk/WM.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's midday. Let's get the news now with Nicole Pullman.
A Birmingham man's to appear in court today charged with kidnapping and